cars.
Instead of the water rapids, you can have a road you go down that's full of potholes in a car with bad suspension and flat tyres. I don't know why they're bothering building a theme park in this country. They're going right, no one will be able to afford to go to it anyway.
How about the Rachel Reeves ride, says Terry in Birmingham. You go round and round and vanish up your own deficit. It's the HS2 ride. It travels at high speed for 10 feet, where everyone gets off and into the replacement bus ride. Tickets are £50 if bought 5 months in advance, or £1,000 on the day.
There's a strong rumour going around that Rachel Reeves is going to have a kissing booth for this theme park. So what I do, mate, I shove a £5 in a pot and you can go in and fill your boots.
Thank you very much indeed, and very generous of you. One from G, who says fast-track entry to every ride for illegals, plus a free night stay in the park's hotel and free food. New theme park bumper cars will have to pay a congestion charge, and the funhouse isn't built yet, despite Angela Rayner's pledge to build houses. What about Ghost Train doesn't move because the driver's on strike? Have a good day. This is brilliant for the theme park. How about grow your own cannabis farm? Yeah, that's a good one. An Ethiopian safari park narrated by Angela Rayner, says Gary in Durham. How about that? This sums up the Labour Party to me. The one idea they have to improve growth for the economy is to basically have a bloody big fun fair. It's the type of idea primary school children would pitch, given 10 minutes to come up with something. Well, it turns out, Matt, in Royston, that it's not even their idea. But they're now trying to claim it's their idea, even though it was actually the Tories.
They have done brilliantly on breakfast, but you know on Drive you've done brilliantly as well. Downhill slide ride surrounded by ULEZ cameras so that people are fined on exit. Love it. You could have a Birmingham-themed whack the rat stall. If you whack the rat, you can have your bin emptied for free. On the Labour theme park.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is a late show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Yeah, man.
You know what? We're going to get straight into the show. Don't mess about. Should Lucy Conley be freed? Remember Lucy Conley? She's challenged her prison sentence at the Court of Appeal today. She's the wife of former Tory councillor. She was jailed for 31 months for sending tweets during that unfortunate period after the Southport attack, when I think people thought that Axel Rudiker-Barner was an asylum seeker who'd come over on a small boat. Look, I'm going to say one thing. I remain to be convinced about all of these people who gob off on social media actually inciting genuine violence. But OK, the court found against her. She was talking about setting fire to migrant hotels. I don't believe she was actually encouraging people to do it. Nonetheless, she was found guilty. But in any case, let me just ask you this question more than anything else. Why have we got situations where people who've been accused of real criminality, attacking people on the streets, muggings, burglaries, sex crimes, grooming offences, getting less harsh sentences than Lucy Conley? Lucy Conley was a political decision because Keir Starmer was so upset about what he perceived to be the Southport riots. Now, whether they were riots or protests doesn't matter. Fundamentally, she got it wrong, but I just don't know that she was as bad as people have made her out to be. I just wonder, you know, if she'd have actually attempted to set fire to the migrant hotel, whether she'd have got 31 months. Anyway, hurty words. So we're joined by Tom Harris, Director of the Free Speech Union, Director of Data, and obviously Asher's here as well. Well, look, before we go to you, Tom, Asher, what's your view?
Well, my view is that they didn't actually find her guilty. She was told to plead guilty by those ridiculous lawyers that told lots of people, oh, you won't get remand and you'll only get, you probably won't get anything. And they were actually they seemed to be all in on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The legal profession, we're going to stamp all this out, you know. And Keir Starmer prejudiced the cases because what judge isn't going to be swayed by what the former head of lawyers and now Prime Minister is saying? They knew they had to act tough if they want to progress in their careers. And like you say, people like, you know, Hugh Edwards with the worst form of paedophile images on his phone and doing other things, he gets away with it totally. Also, she was traumatised, her kid, which was let down by the state, by the NHS. You could say these kids at the nursery that were murdered were also let down by the state. So she's going to react like a traumatic mother who's lost her child in tragic circumstances. So she's a political prisoner, like you're saying. It's disgusting what they've done to her.
Well, I remember Sir Robert Buckland when he was I think the Solicitor General. He's a Conservative MP who was defeated in Swindon or won the Swindon seat. What was important about this? When he was Solicitor General, he used to appeal the sentences of people who'd been convicted of crimes where he felt the sentence wasn't significant enough. And it looked amazing, because they go, and now to represent the prosecution, it's the Solicitor General of the United Kingdom, Sir Robert Buckland. Right. But what he said to me, and this is of relevance to what Asher just said, he said what was great was for the judges was when I would appeal the decision, it gave them a political steer on the mood of the nation. So actually they wanted to get the appeals in to understand what the government wanted. So these judges will have taken account of what Keir Starmer said, exactly what and Asher said. And there's proof in the fact that Robert Buckland, by appealing and by stating the government's position, did get people harsher sentences. Tom, look...
And the ones that pleaded not guilty, in the end, when it went to trial, it got thrown out. They said, this is ridiculous.
Tom, I just want to ask you this central question. It's difficult because you're a free speech campaigner rather than somebody who's in the legal profession. But this central idea that if I say on Twitter, somebody should kill Keir Starmer, whether I'm actually inciting violence. I mean, putting these two together, I'm not... Do you know, when she says we should burn down the migrant hotels, is she really encouraging someone to do it?
Well, no one was going to act on that, were they?
Well, the test in America for whether it's incitement to violence is that it's in imminent risk of lawlessness right there and then.
Right.
So when you say something, like if I point at Asher and you've got a knife and I say...
Kill him. It was like
Asher, that's incitement
the Charles
to
Manson.
Immediate, imminent
He never actually
violence.
murdered anyone, Charles Manson, but he actually incited them to go and kill those people. It's directly telling people to kill them.
If there's an obvious link.
Yeah.
If you remember the radio presenter, loads of people remember from Key 103, Steve Penk, and he used to do these wind-up calls. Now, if you don't remember, it doesn't matter, but he used to do these wind-up calls, and at the end he'd go, your daughter Susan phoned me, because it's Steve Penk from Key 103, and they'd always go, I'll kill her. I'll kill her. Now, if you say that on Twitter now, so the police will knock on your door for threatening to kill someone. Fairly obviously, at the end of these wind-ups, when people are going, I'm going to kill him, they weren't actually intending to kill him.
No, I mean, there's a total lack of understanding about where people are coming from. Your point about, in the Lucy Connolly case, she was already traumatised by virtue of having lost a child.
Well, that was his point, to be fair.
Well, yeah, it's a really important one. And she went for a walk with the dog and then thought about it again and took it down within a matter of hours. But there's another element to this, which is that when normally about a third or a quarter of the way through a sentence, you get the option to take 2 days with your family or at least have some leave of absence. This was denied Lucy Connolly as well. So there's
because of the media, they said she'd get media coverage. It didn't want the negative publicity.
Well, yeah.
But do you think there was anything to do? Because they may not consciously have done this, but her husband's a Tory councillor, so there would have been that extra hatred that the left often have.
I couldn't possibly comment, but I mean, I think that.
But you're going to anyway. I hate when people do that.
You know, I mean, it did feel at that time that there was this link between what Keir Starmer and the Home Secretary as well was saying at that time, the full force of the law, whatever that means, because surely the law is the law. There is the force of the law, and not what's the full force of the law. You apply the law or you don't. And above the courts of justice, we were stood outside the law courts today in the Strand.
How good are you as a protester? Because it's not your natural.
Absolutely,
it's not your natural environment.
Holding my Americano and my croissant in the other hand, trying to look as though I'm, I can't protest. We had a banner that said, "Police are." Police are streets, not our tweets. I can't even get that right, which I think absolutely gets. I
would love to have you with a banner, which I saw during the Brexit protests, which I thought was brilliant. We really are quite cross.
Exactly. I'm a classic British protester. I'm not going to be with the Gilets jaunes in Paris or anywhere like that. That's absolutely not me.
But then it is difficult for you, isn't it? Because you never want to defend people who've committed real crime. But Lucy Connolly, I don't know. I'm not convinced that ought to be a crime. I think that imminent threat of lawlessness, that is a much better benchmark.
I think it's the Brandenburg test. It was from the beginning of last century, and I think it really does establish what we mean by incitement to violence. Now, it's in the US, so it doesn't apply to us. Fine, okay, but it's a really interesting way of looking at it, I think.
Well, actually, funnily enough, to sweep off onto a completely different topic, my concern about Parliament at the moment, we know that the standards have gone through the floor, but particularly the standards have gone through the floor in the House of Lords. I think a lot of this badly...
What are you saying about my boss? He's just been elevated.
Well, he's one of the good ones.
A lot of the badly drafted law in the 18th, 19th century would have been removed by the House of Lords when they revised it. They don't revise very much now. So you have this stupid situation. Somebody was telling me about... one of the new sex offences came in, which made it illegal to touch someone on the bum without permission. Well, you think, but that applies equally to an intern in the office at 2 in the afternoon and a woman you're chatting to at 3 in the morning in a nightclub. And you think, well, did nobody think that maybe what is inappropriate in an office becomes appropriate in a nightclub? And I worry that these incitement laws are similar. They haven't really thought about the implications of any of it.
I also feel that what we're seeing as well is laws that have been on the statute book for a long time, the Communications Act, the Public Order Act in particular, they're now being applied to speech. They're now being applied to what street preachers are saying.
Yes.
And they're saying, well, actually, you've broken, you've caused a public disorder according to the Public Order Act. Now, this is not the way that these laws have been used for a very long time. So the law's kind of lying dormant, ready to be weaponised by a sort of more malevolent approach.
But they also make
anti-free speech
They
approach.
make up laws. That guy who burnt the Koran, he shouldn't have done it, but he did it, you know, freedom of speech and all that. They made up a law and it was actually thrown out in the end. Well, they've had to change it, the CPS. They've had to change it, actually.
Well, the key thing there...
The charge didn't exist.
The key thing there was to declare it to be... You've got to say you're not guilty. I think this is the point. That, you know, duty solicitors are often out there saying, oh, it's a slam dunk. Plead guilty, you get a lower sentence, you're out by Christmas. Well, certainly with these online cases such as Lucy Connolly, that absolutely didn't seem to happen at all.
No.
They pled guilty.
Shouldn't they be investigated? Because the ones that pled not guilty, most of them got thrown out. So
it's
they've
really
given bad
tricky
advice
to unpick things. It's really hard to unpick.
But the other thing is, and I'm going to say this, and oh God, we'll get complaints. A lot of solicitors are truly awful at the law. That is part.
But that is an appeal factor to not
lawfare is a real thing.
But the best thing about a lot of the solicitors and whatever is that you go through some sort of a criminal case. Thankfully, I've never have, and you go at the end of it. My solicitor was brilliant with all those mitigating circumstances. Yeah, because that's the only case you've ever watched. You haven't realised he says exactly the same thing to every single judge in every single case. You've just never heard it before.
Yeah.
He really stuck his neck out for me. No, he says the same thing every time. Anyway, tell us a little bit about Thorpe Police. A retired policeman, Julian Folkes, was arrested in his home by 6 officers from Kent Police after he questioned a supporter of the pro-Palestinian demonstrations on X. Explain.
Yeah, so there was just during the time, I think they're still going on, of the marches, the Palestinian marches on a Saturday, someone who was supporting those essentially critiqued the Suella Braverman for calling them hate marches, and Julian Folkes stepped in at that point with another tweet saying, "Or you're one step away from storming Heathrow and looking for Jews," which is an intemperate tweet. Again, we're talking about something that could be misunderstood. Essentially, this was at the time when
it was a misunderstood.
It was because this was the time when in Russia a plane from Israel landed, and a whole load of people stormed the airport looking for Jewish people.
But it was exactly like that thing you said. He was saying it ironically,
and they said,
"You just said get the Jews."
Yeah. And maybe he should have said, "Oh, I suppose you would say next that," in order to qualify.
But you could have read the tweets before. It needn't have gone through all those.
So just to be clear, he's having a go at them, and they're accusing him of attempting to encourage people to go and find Jews in an airport.
Yeah. Well, what's happening is someone's complaining about that tweet, that response that he made, and then Kent Police are totally misreading the situation, not realising the irony in the point he was making, and they reported him to the Met Police. There was a Met Intelligence unit.
But they weren't intelligent because there were previous tweets that would have shown that he was a former policeman.
He was a former special constable in Kent.
Yeah.
And the scary thing is that they came around his house. Yeah. They looked at all his books. They saw, you've got a few Brexity things.
Yeah, they said Brexity,
I mean, this was from the body cam footage.
And it was a Douglas Murray book. And the Spectator.
The Spectator. You're reading the Spectator. I mean, what's this? Half the country, 52% of the country.
It reminds me of the whole campaign to report yourself as a right-wing extremist, which I did, and I know about 20,000 people reported themselves as well. And what had happened was
now Keir Starmer is.
the Met. the Met had put out these adverts, do you want to report someone as a right-wing extremist? Which, of course, I did. But we tried to replicate it. Now, not every advert comes up on every Google page, but we tried to find... report a left-wing extremist or report a jihadi or report any... Couldn't find any of that. You could only find right-wing extremists. So I phoned them up and I said, hello, I'd like to report myself as a right-wing extremist. And they said, are you a right-wing extremist? I said, well, I don't know what the definition is. And they went, have you ever been a member of the BNP? And I went, no. And they went, well, you're probably not a right-wing extremist then, and put the phone down. But
they've lowered the threshold now.
Yeah, well, now owning a book by Douglas Murray apparently is sufficient.
Have you heard
of The Spectator?
Have you heard of Douglas Murray? Yeah, it's completely bizarre. I worry about all of this because I just wonder. Well, it comes back to precisely the same point. To what extent are these people actually advocating violence, and to what extent is it just a turn of phrase? And with these humorless elfin safety type people.
It's the humorlessness. It's that they have come up through this whole education process, including police training. They totally misunderstand the very nature of how we operate as a society. That British humour, the way we use sarcasm, the way we use irony, the way we take the mick out of each other all the time. That's what we do.
Well, I've got. I mean, I obviously with my background in debating, I always consider that to be my job as a debater. I've said this before. I've read the non-crime hate incident and the pyramid of
hatred.
And I'll say this, and I apologise for language. It's bollocks.
It's total nonsense.
And I can say that as one of the leading experts in the field. When I read it, I was quite upset about it because not only is it nonsense, but it's also, I believe the person that wrote it would know it to be nonsense. You wouldn't need very much knowledge in that field. And I always give the example of how you could prove whether the pyramid of hate works. And it's very, very, very easy. Come up with some random thing like tall people. Go out into your local...
Where are you going with this?
Right, short people.
This is how it starts, yeah.
But this is how to cause a Holocaust, according to the College of Policing. If I now decide to pick on short people, get a megaphone out in the street and start saying short people are a risk to national security, then a group of people that walk past me will begin to believe that. That will percolate into public discourse. Councillors and MPs will become more likely to start saying that short people are dangerous. There will then be laws passed in Parliament which will prohibit the rights of short people, and in the end, short people will be gassed in places.
It's like that Randy Newman song called "Short People," which is exactly about that.
Now let's just be clear. If you want to test that theory, you can test that theory whether it be short people, tall people, fat people, ginger people, whatever. I wouldn't suggest you do it for blacks or Asians simply because you'll be arrested for that. But try it yourself. Attempt to cause a genocide against people with glasses by shouting on the street. And you will find very, very quickly that what the College of Policing say will happen will not happen. What is more likely to happen is that people will stop you and tell you talking rubbish, and you will either give up or be persuaded you're wrong. That's what will happen.
Yeah, well, it's this fallacy of plausibility that some of these models, they could, like this pyramid of hate, you know, it sounds plausible in a classroom. In a classroom context, it sounds like, oh yeah, that kind of might make sense. But it's total nonsense.
The other point about almost every genocide that's ever happened, the government responsible has always denied it. They've never gone in response to public concerns. We're gassing Jews. Well, nobody's ever said that.
We also, with the non-crime hate instance, we also found out, and this was a piece of work that Harry Miller did. He went to all the police forces and asked, okay, so have you actually analysed how this data relates to events that then happen that are race-related or some protected characteristic related? And some 20 came back, or 16 forces came back, 15 of which said, no, we don't really use the data. And yet this is the whole point of collecting it.
Yeah, that's right.
Is to spot the patterns. So what analysis are you doing? None came back.
It was amazing. Though, in the College of Policing pyramid of hate, what was remarkable about it and telling, given that there have been genocides regularly, every country has had racial violence, whatever it is. They couldn't cite any examples of this actually being true. I mean, I make the point about Nazi Germany because that's the one that will always spring to mind. Hitler did not stand up in Nuremberg going, I used to quite like Jews and gypsies, but now that the public has been writing all this negative stuff about them, I realise what we need to do is put them in concentration camps. It's just not...
It began from the Stephen Lawrence inquiry when the police were called institutionally racist that they brought all this.
Anyway, that's when they came up with the idea of it. But it was only 2014 when they actually she started recording these non-crime. So it was under a Tory government.
Well, our old friend Theresa May.
Well, yeah, or the coalition before that.
She's there, look.
Yeah, I think you look like Theresa May.
Well, is that just my hair today?
No.
Look, there's the answer machine's flashing, the Panasonic. I think we've got a message. Someone's trying to tell us something. Press play, ain't it?
Do you, Tom, think that she will win the case and be freed, or do you think it's just a long, long shot? I'm completely of the opinion that she is a political prisoner, and I thought political prisoners were only people being held in the likes of Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran. I just can't believe that we've got political prisoners in the UK. I mean, this is Dickensian.
So, Tom, first of all, we haven't given you an earpiece, but did you hear that number?
I did. So, will we?
You don't
make
have to
a
prove you
difference?
heard it. You just have to tell.
He basically asked if you think we'll win the case.
Will we win the case? Oh, it's impossible to know.
But how did it feel today, the atmosphere and everything?
The atmosphere was
She broke down in court, didn't she?
It's very defiant. It's very certainly when we were outside. We were.
But how defiant can you be if you pleaded guilty?
We want to do it in the right way. We want to use the system. We want to show the system still works. We want to show the court systems can still make a difference. We did that with Jamie Michael when he was found not guilty.
Just to be clear, so there's multiple there's multiple views you could take. Asher's view is, actually, now the cases have gone through court, we can see that most of these people were found not guilty, and therefore it's fair to conclude if Lucy Connolly had pleaded not guilty, maybe she would have, the court would have ruled in that way.
And they had bad legal advice, didn't they, really, in that case?
There's that objection where literally she shouldn't have pleaded guilty, and then there's the objection to the length of the sentence. Which or both are you doing?
Oh, well, so at the moment...
what basis is the appeal, basically?
I think the appeal is on the basis of... it's basically an unsafe conviction in the first place.
Yes.
And the second is the proportionality of the sentence. So, you know...
Are they saying that she wasn't in her right mind and she was given bad legal advice?
I think that's the point. There are many mitigating factors, many mitigating factors as to why she did what she did. It came down within a couple of hours, as we said. You know, there's a lot of context.
She's got a sick husband and her daughter's not doing well at school
and the context as well.
Is there also... look, no, I'll tell you what we'll do. Why don't we go to a break and just continue this after the break, because it's going to make more sense now than starting something and having 30 seconds to break. Anyway, back in Mo.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is The Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould, and we've got Tom Harris, who's the Director of Data at the Free Speech Union. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good, and I can hear things now.
Okay.
I've got
You look
something
like
in my ear.
I
Have I
look-
got it in
you-
the right way?
You look like an elderly person, don't you? Know
I feel more and more like an elderly person every day, I'm afraid, Andre.
Yeah, so we've got the two cases, which are Lucy Conley and Julian Folkes. So you're saying about the sentence? We're bothered about the sentence.
I think it's the sentence. Yeah, it absolutely is, and also this fact that she hasn't been granted what other prisoners who've done actual harm in the physical real world.
Is there any suggestion at all that anyone even contemplated burning down a migrant hotel because of what she said?
Not that I'm aware of.
Also,
it was a very torrid time, as we know.
Somebody's been in touch saying she'd have been better beating the face off one of her constituents, because then she'd have got a 10-week suspended sentence, like Mike Amesbury.
Well, this is the point about real life, real life hurting people. There are so many examples of people who've gone out and done real things.
One of the rape gang guys who got done for rape got 3 years, only a little bit more than what she got, actually raping a child.
Yeah. You start to line things up, and it just makes no sense. And the whole thing about, I was going to say about the, on the top of the courts of justice, the lady justice is blind and she has a scale. Was she really blinded? Did she really have a scale back in August? It really doesn't feel like
even she's been
did.
captured.
Okay, let's go to Tony in Lancashire. Tony, you're on talk.
Hi, good evening.
All right, mate.
Do you know, this is the only programme with proper common sense.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
The only place...
The common sense revolution.
Proper common sense. I'll tell you, I can't get enough of it. The amount of common sense what you come out with, I just can't get enough of it. Anyway...
Used to be a cereal, didn't it, Common Sense, weren't they? They got rid of it. Used to be a cereal, Common Sense, do you remember? You could eat Common Sense.
You do that, about Lucy Connolly, she should be freed. Because, look at, you got Prince Andrew.
Do me a favour, Tony. Let's just be careful here, right? Right, Tony, you're back on. You've got Prince Andrew. Let's be careful. Go on, Tony.
Well, he's suited policing, isn't it? Full stop. He's going to...
Well, it's not. No. In fairness to Prince Andrew, I mean, he wasn't accused of any crime in the UK. Well, I don't think he was accused of any crime.
She was 17 as well, apparently, and he denies ever anything happened. But anyway, back to Lucy Conley.
Hugh Edwards, he's still walking
Well,
about.
exactly, he had the worst form of child rape pictures or child pornography pictures on his telephone. I got nothing. Yeah. Well, got suspended sentence because he didn't get into Cambridge and Oxford.
Yeah, that's right.
He hasn't paid the bead back.
The official reason, let's remember, the official reason why Hugh Edwards said he was so depressed was he didn't get into Oxford, he had to go to Cardiff University instead. That is damning of Cardiff. If you go to Cardiff University, you'll be so depressed, you'll later become an internet paedophile. I mean, that is just...
But that actually worked. It's like, by the way,
to everyone at the University of Cardiff, let's get the nuance here. We don't believe it's actually true.
This is British humour.
No, we don't believe it's true. We do not believe that going to the University of Cardiff gives you a greater propensity to be interested in hardcore child porn.
Probably just shoplifting, something like that. Yeah.
Wrong on so many levels.
Indeed. All right, Tony, thank you so much. Heather's in Gavan. Heather, you're on talk.
Well, Lucy Conley, she shouldn't be in prison at all. She should have just got a little caution, that's all that she should have got. And freedom of speech, as we're talking about freedom of speech, is on trial at the moment. And we are definitely on trial for freedom of speech. And it's still been lost.
Heather, I think I'm going to leave it there. We got most of that, but the line was a bit bad. So David is in Lowestoft.
Am I on the air yet?
No, we're going to put you through to the studio in 2 minutes. Just stand by.
Wait there, Dave.
Dave, can you just remind us what you were going to say before we put you through to Andre Nash?
What I'd like to say is that poor lady Lucy, that's a terrible situation that she was in.
Yeah.
And they condemned her for her trauma.
All right, yeah, I've got it. I'll give us a second. Hang on a second. We're going to put you through to the studio now. We're going to put you through to the studio now.
Machetes, they let them off the hook. They never prosecuted them.
Okay, thank you, David. I was only messing about with you. How worried are you about this situation that Tom Harris has raised about the fact that the situation in America is that you've got to actually be likely to cause some form of criminality, whereas in Britain,
imminently.
Yeah, imminently.
I think it's the same here. It's just they pled guilty. When they pled not guilty, they weren't even done.
Ian, mate, I'm sorry.
Hello,
Dave.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, we know you. We know you are. Yeah, relax, man. Dave.
Right, what I think he was doing.
I think he was a bit confused.
Here's the big problem. Here's the big problem. What he was doing was this. Right. He decided, right, I'm not going to put my phone to my ear. I'll just watch it on the TV. Oh, sorry, listen to it on the radio or watch it on the TV
delay.
and just speak in. There's a 14-second delay. So you've got no idea what's going on and becoming completely confused. So just to remind you, what you are listening to now, what you're watching now is not real life. It happened 14 seconds ago, right? So if you watch us on the TV or listen to us on the radio and attempt to phone in, you'll become horribly confused. Horribly confused. All right, Patrick in Nottingham. Patrick, you're on talk.
Got the luxury of hindsight then.
Hello?
You started too early, Pat. Pat.
I'm here.
What's up, man? You called in, didn't you?
Yeah.
We heard you. I think you were ordering a curry or something. What were you saying just when we came to you?
Well, I was listening. A 14-second delay.
You were just talking to the telly. You want to? My grandmother used to do that. Yeah, she'd talk to the newsreader. But what did you want to say, Pat?
I want to talk about that chap burning the Quran, this, that, and the other.
Right.
Yeah. I think if it's done in a controlled environment. I should have the freedom to burn a Mr. Man book.
Well, look, here is.
You do have that.
I'll tell you what. We used to get. Who's that doctor we used to get on? Who was from? He was an expert from the Henry Jackson Society. It doesn't matter, but he's got a PhD and he's a Muslim scholar, and he said. What we need to do is ensure that Quran burning is legal, because the only reason you would want to burn a Quran is if it was illegal. So he said, the reality is, because all you're doing is exercising your legal rights as you believe they ought to be. Therefore, if you were to say, no, burning a book is completely legal, nobody would do it.
You wouldn't bother to do it if it wasn't risque like that. And the point as well is a lot of the people who are doing this are people who fled, refugees from Muslim countries, who are then making a point of protest. It is in itself performative. Yeah. It is saying, I've gone from this situation where I couldn't do this, where this was illegal, where my rights were being suppressed, my right to freedom of expression. Now I'm in a country where I'm free. And therefore, as an act of performative protest, I'm actually allowed to do this now. Isn't this fantastic? This is my new freedom. Yeah. And what we're finding, people are saying, look at my new freedom, and our police force is swooping in.
No one's talking about the one in London that he got attacked by a guy with a knife. And then when the guy... Hold on a minute, Pat. The guy with the knife, not only that, a guy just, I think a delivery or an Uber rider was going past, tripped him up. People haven't noticed that. He trips up the guy so the knife man can get nearer and attack him. And then the bicycle man kicks him in the head. So it's not tiny minorities. There's people all over the street that approve of... And we haven't heard anything about this knife man.
The big problem that you've got, and I've got Muslim friends of mine who I think would all agree on this. There is a fundamental difference the way Christians and Muslims see blasphemy. So Christians see blasphemy as something that's between you and your God, whereas many Muslim friends of mine, including very moderate people, believe that blasphemy should be a matter of public policy. There should be laws prohibiting blasphemy in all respects. So I mean, look, to be fair. Material that is offensive against Jesus, Muslim countries tend to ban, whereas we wouldn't. So I just think
they wouldn't wear it if a Bible was burnt, though, would they?
Well, it's illegal to burn a Bible, but
Thomas Aikenhead was the last man in Scotland to be executed for blasphemy, and it was because of pub banter. He was overheard mocking the Trinity.
They want to bring that back now, the pub banter laws.
Well, exactly. It links to a lot of things. By the next Tuesday, he was hanged. He was only 17. Now, so Christianity has had blasphemy laws.
Yes.
until we kind of woke up and said, do you know what, this doesn't work in a free
But
society.
actually, they say it was 97 it got banned, but it got banned from basically about 1946. Some lord in the House of Lords said the blasphemy law is now a dead letter.
Well, again,
So
it's where the law's there, waiting to pounce
well, they tried
on
it with
you.
The Life of Brian, didn't they? They sort of, but it never.
They
never
tried
worked.
that. Yeah, Life of Brian
Didn't
was.
work,
They said, can we ban that? They tried to ban that film. That didn't work. It never does work. No. It never does. Suppressing these things.
Okay, Chris is in Epsom. Chris, you're on talk.
Hey, good evening, Andre, Ash, and Tom.
Nice.
Hello.
Good evening.
All right, man.
Something I'd like to ask Tom, actually.
Shoot.
Tom.
Yeah.
I know that you're helping Lucy, and I know that you've been trying to find the other, help the others that have been jailed for hurty words. Of the 31 that you mentioned that were jailed for hurty words, how many of the duty solicitors told them to plead guilty?
That's a great question. I don't have that stat on me, but
I bet it was all of them.
It was a really surprisingly large number. The sort of rhetoric at the time was plead guilty and you'll be out by Christmas.
And the ones that pled not guilty, it got thrown out.
Well, the one we know about particularly, the Jamie Michael, where he said, no, I'm not guilty, and he didn't. He pled not guilty, and then a jury went out and found him not guilty in February this year within 17 minutes. And there was held for 17 days on before he was released on bail.
There was incitement on the left. You know, there was. Keir Starmer said they got trains and were busting, and they weren't from the local area, and they were far. And all this police report last week said no, none of that's true. There was one of those, or was it Hope Not Hate, that said, oh no, the far right are going to organise, and they actually incited people from the left going, and so they actually incited people, and nothing happened.
But it's a great question. I don't have that stat as to how many.
But the implication, Chris, is that it's a large number.
Yeah.
I think. Listen, there's a couple of things there, and you've just reminded me of them actually. Yes, I believe it was a high number because I think they were all told to do it. I think the whole thing stinks of a conspiracy from Starmer saying what he said.
From the legal profession, yeah.
From the legal profession, from the duty solicitors
to the judges,
advice, to the judge that was installed. You know, you've got victims of serious crime waiting 3 years. And what did they have? They had a couple of weeks in which they weren't given bail, they were given wrong advice, and they're all jailed. I think personally, and I don't know the law very well, I'm a layman, but I think personally, now that report's come out that Starmer was wrong, I think they've all got a case for an appeal. Also, all right, we still have. This is a couple of things that are still hanging about. We still have the Labour councillor that made the cutthroat gesture on TV. Still, his case keeps getting put.
He didn't
back.
get remanded, did he? Interestingly enough.
No, he was free. He's free.
Totally free. Yeah.
And also, Hope Not Hate. The leader of Hope Not Hate put out a tweet.
I just mentioned that.
That said a Muslim woman had acid thrown in her face, which brought all the Muslims out.
So it literally incited people. That did.
Well, of course,
that literally did.
Well, of course, it's widely said that that scumbag and malcontent James O'Brien. It's often said that the reason Nigel Farage is in imminent threat of being killed is because James O'Brien falsely claimed. He still hasn't apologised on air. Falsely claimed that Nigel Farage had claimed that Axel Rudikabana was a Muslim who had come into the country on a small boat. Every Islamic fundamentalist organisation in the world has now got Nigel Farage on their hit list. If Nigel Farage is killed, it will be James O'Brien's fault. Now, where's the incitement there?
He called them literally the Farage riots. He couldn't be more
literally. We know for a fact that Islamic fundamentalist groups want to kill Nigel Farage because of the dishonesty of James O'Brien, and yet nobody's at LBC, are they? Because they don't give a toss if it's a lefty.
Yeah, I mean, Nigel is got to live with this for the rest of his life. There's more generally the fact that people are throwing things at him and he never knows what's in them.
Indeed. Okay, we're going to be back in a couple of moments. Thank you so much to Tom Harris from the Free Speech Union with a warning: your curry is about to be made illegal by Ed Miliband. Back in a moment.
No.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Now, before we start, we've got to say that Asher and I attended the British Bangladeshi Caterers Association dinner at the Hilton Paddington.
Yeah, we better declare that we attended and got free curry the other night.
Now, unfortunately...
No poppadoms.
Now, unfortunately, we didn't have a competitive year this year because they always give an award for media people. We won it a couple of years ago, so we are going to remind people that we won the BBCA award a couple of years ago.
You won it, didn't you?
But we didn't. We didn't win it this year. Patrick Christie's from GB News was the media personality of the year of the curry industry, or as we like to call it, curry eater of the year.
Oh, I thought that's what it was officially called.
But we won it a few years ago. Anyway, look, the curry industry is in absolute crisis, and just to add to its woes, Ed Miliband wants to ban clay tandoori ovens that use gas, and instead wants to use electric as a result of net zero. So Toff Mir is here, who is the president of the British Bangladeshi Caterers Association. So Toff, look, you're a smiley, happy man, but you are nervous, aren't you?
No, I'm not.
All right.
I'm happy to talk.
But what are the issues facing the industry?
Well, so many. Look, up and down the country, the curry houses are facing many... They're literally just about managing. We've got staff prices, we've got the cost of produce going through the roof, skyrocketed.
Yeah, rice has like doubled or something, hasn't it? Or more than that.
Chicken, lamb,
everything's gone up crazy.
Everything has gone through the roof. And in addition, we have some unfair immigration law.
Because it's a specialist job in the kitchen in a Bangladeshi restaurant.
Well, that's the point I was going to just about to make. So you work in a takeaway as a chef. You're we think it's a skilled job and a skilled profession. But if you work in a restaurant as a chef, you're a skilled to the MAC, Migration Advisor Committee.
What you mean, a chef in a normal restaurant in
dining
town?
in. But if you work in a kitchen takeaway, the same chef, he doesn't qualify as a...
What about a restaurant? Even a restaurant?
As a skilled staff. So we cannot get, because we have an aging workforce. So we have to get people from abroad. And
because you have to actually not speak English in a Bangladeshi kitchen. It's all spoken in a different language.
So here's something that's been...
Here's another one. They put a criteria that you have to be A-level qualified in order to get a sponsor license from abroad.
So here's the thing that I know that the BBC has talked about. This idea that one of the things that you don't care about, I'm told, is that you don't care that your members have to pay for medical insurance if somebody comes to the country. You don't mind also that there's no route to citizenship. And let's just get this right. So one of the big problems that has happened historically with the Home Office is somebody comes to the country on a work visa. Then that leads to a process where they can end up as a citizen and potentially bring their family over. But what the BBCA has said, which I think is phenomenal, is, well, don't have a work visa that leads to a passport. So when you finish your job, you go back to Bangladesh, and that solves all the problems.
Or India, or Pakistan, wherever they come from around the world. That's absolutely fine with us, because we need the workforce not to give them a British passport or whatever.
So what happens is when they judge one of your chefs coming into the country, they'll say, right, is this somebody that we want here permanently who can bring their wife and children? Whereas, of course, you're saying, well, let's not give them that option.
Like the fruit pickers, they do that, don't they? It's just when it's in season you can live here.
Our position is simple, really. We have an aging workforce in the Asian restaurants.
I know, you see it now. They're old geezers. The waiters getting older, aren't they? Wobbling around. Yeah, we need some younger guys.
And not only that, look, in any industry, let's not kid ourselves. You need the young workforce to take it to the next level, to modernise it, make changes, positive changes. Up and down the curry houses. Imagine, if you don't have curry houses up and down the country, how many people will be upset?
Yes.
Everyone, I would say. Who doesn't love a chicken tikka masala, which has been the national dish of UK? And we are getting bombarded by the government with the increase of... You see, small businesses and big businesses are completely differently operated. Up and down the country, small businesses employs the most employee.
Now let me, by the way, Toff, watch out, your chair's very squeaky. Yeah. But anyway.
Oh, I thought it was your back. You need a massage.
Yeah, he's had a hip replacement. I will say one thing, though, about the BBCA members. Yeah. So, what you have done as the British Bangladeshi caterers, you've accepted that waiters won't always come from Bangladesh or Pakistan. No. So you have taken a lot of UK and indeed EU workers. So I think
it won't be the same dish. You never taste the same.
No, hang on a second. But you've accepted that for the waiters. But here's something that most people don't know. Right. So, God, I'm going to cause problems for your members.
No, you won't.
A Bangladeshi head chef can make you any Indian meal you want. The menu is just a suggestion, effectively. And the reason I say that is because he will stand there at his station, he will have memorised every single recipe, and he makes everything from scratch when you order it. Yeah. So if you were to say, I want a boona with extra onions. That can be produced.
Yes,
but that is a much more highly skilled thing than just a waiter.
With all due respect, it's not like slapping a steak and serving it. It's much easier.
It's a balance of spices, complex. Like 50
it's
spices.
It's a much complex thing. Cooking a curry. It takes some of the dishes takes hours, and it's a unified way of doing it with the difference because it takes a lot of experience to get it right. Yeah. It's not 1 year, 2 year. Minimum, I would say, to be a chef, it takes 3 years.
So like university degree level?
Absolutely. But our problem is the MAC, Migration Advisory Committee, puts clause that doesn't help. Now,
like A-levels and things like that.
£38,000 wage. A small takeaway or a restaurant up and down the high road cannot afford it.
But also £38,000, perhaps to people here, it sounds like an average wage, but in Bangladesh is a colossal amount of money.
Absolutely, or in Southeast Asia, most of the country. But the problem is, when they put these sort of threshold, I don't care about what they think Bangladesh or India or Pakistan, but it's here. Your small business cannot sustain that, cannot afford to pay that.
We've got a really interesting thing that I'm going to put to you in a minute. We've had somebody messaging in saying, I can't understand why curries are so expensive when I can make it for an eighth of the price at home. Toff will answer that question, and I think it'll be quite interesting. Back in a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is talk, and we're talking about the danger to the Indian restaurant industry of all of the policies that have been brought through. Ed Miliband wants to ban the tandoor clay oven. Well, he doesn't. He wants to use electric, which doesn't work. They have to operate from gas. Toff Mir is the president of the British Bangladesh Caterers Association. Now, Toff, why don't we respond to that really clearly? Because I think it's just integral to everything that you've said, or everything that you're campaigning on as the BBCA. Why is it that I can make a curry very cheaply in my house, admittedly not as good as a restaurant, but it costs a lot more to do?
Well, I don't think curry is cheap up and down the country. Relatively comparing other cuisine, we are very competitive. I think I don't use the word cheap, but very competitive, and we provide value for money.
Yes.
That I can guarantee.
But you've got rents and rates.
That's why we've been, we're still here. And we have, it has become curries. We know it. It's an integral part of.
Well, now
every
even ready meal. Some of the ready meals are actually good.
And the village across the country.
But even the ready meals now have improved a lot. They're obviously done by people who know what they're doing. But even they can be £4 each, and you're only paying about £6-7 in a restaurant.
Yeah.
So it's
and
not
then
expensive.
You pay VAT, staff, rent, rate, cost of produce. Gone through the roof.
So of course, what people forget is, say your rent is £1,000 a week for a restaurant, and then you've got staff costs of say £1,500 a week. That's before you've sold anything.
Yeah, and in addition, whether the company makes end of the year money or not, every penny you take through the till, you've got to pay 20% VAT.
Yes.
And the council rates, doesn't matter how much you sell, you've got to pay that.
Business rate.
Business rate.
And we as small business get nothing from the local council.
No.
Not even a bin collection.
No.
So,
especially in Birmingham.
Yeah.
Don't get anything.
And London.
Yeah.
So, there is the cost, but we strongly believe it's a competitive pricing, and we do provide value for money.
Okay. Let me now think this through. So a lot of you will have come here, and I don't know about you personally, though we are mates. A lot of people will have come here comparatively poor from Sylhet in Bangladesh, and will have worked their way through. So your local Indian restaurant owner, the 50, 60-year-old bloke, will have come and done. But that new generation isn't coming through. And one of the big worries I've got is if you own your own building as an Indian restaurateur, then you're going to sell the building, and I don't believe there's a new generation of a restaurateur to keep it as an Indian restaurant.
That's my point, really. In order for us to keep going and keep the curry houses alive up and down the country, we need people from outside, because the third generation of I'm a son of migrants.
They don't want to do it, do they?
Well, it's not that they don't want to do it. They're qualified to do other jobs.
Exactly. They can go
which
to
is
university.
Fine, and you've got to accept that, really. There's nothing wrong running your own business, nothing wrong making good money if you work hard for it. But there is other opportunities. They go to college, university, graduate, they choose other profession. Back in the days, yes, you're right. It's not about being poor. It's about working hard and making your way up. It's the grassroots. Our forefathers came with nothing. You're absolutely right, most of them, at least. They didn't know how to speak the language. They didn't have the money. They didn't have the experience. But they built an industry which was at one point worth contributing 4.5 billion to the.
When was that? In the mid-90s?
11 Downing Street.
Was that in the mid-90s?
90s, 2000, up to 2000, 2005, and then the decline is started. Now, we need help from the government. And I'm not only saying the curry houses. I think the NI, the employers' NI increase. Okay,
what about the India deal? Will that help the restaurants where you don't have to pay the national insurance?
Well, I don't know. I have to look into it. All I know is a small business, small takeaway or restaurant, it's very, very hard to afford to pay £38,000 salary, because their turnover and their salary and their cost like VAT, electric, cost of goods, rent, rates, it doesn't add up. Because
and it's getting worse.
And the worst thing is, look, here's the thing. We serve the community. We have become an integral part of any town and city around the country. And we want to keep going, because we believe we are part of the community, part of the society. And that's why...
They're not as important as a phone box in a village. Even villages have them all now.
Absolutely, and we want to maintain that. because it's an amazing industry.
Yes.
Our food is, to die for.
You're
We all
making me
know
hungry.
that.
I'm hungry now.
You know, the good
And
old
of course- and
Rogan,
of course-
good old Danzag, good old Madras, good old Vindaloo, chicken tikka
And
masala.
the problem is with
Lambuna.
with the immigration services, and this is the argument that you've had.
Tandoori chicken.
Yeah, this is the argument.
Charkadal.
This
We
is
can keep going.
This is the argument that they've had for years. God bless our friends at Wetherspoons, but the stuff is centrally produced in a factory,
Yeah.
and what happens is, if you get a curry in Wetherspoons, I'm not
It's
decrying
not
it.
same as cooking fresh.
Yeah, but they obviously they pour out the contents from the bags and warm
Yeah,
it up.
yeah.
Now, let's
not
just be
same.
clear: the chef that does that is not a chef by your standards at all.
No, they do it with machine, whereas we do it, you know, labour, love of labour.
You have to look at it
The
and test it, yeah.
industry has been built throughout the years with love of labour. The net zero is a nonsense. We can't sustain. We need guests to cook our curries, rice, including the tandoori, and naan bread. Can you imagine going to a restaurant without a naan?
Can't you do it with coals and wood and that? Like, you know, because I know in New York the Italians have the same problem with the
charcoal
pizza
you can,
oven.
but did you know some of the councils, or boroughs,
They'll ban it.
they ban it. So where do you draw the line? I think without gas is unthinkable. I don't know where Ed Miliband, he needs to get a reality check for me.
Well, he looks like something up, doesn't he? He's like that, and he's playing a ukulele, you know.
Well, look, I want to say congratulations on being elected president. How long have you served?
Year and a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got another 4 years, like President Trump.
Look, British Bangladeshi Caterers Association was formed 10 years ago, a decade ago, and with the slogan saying catering for caterers. And, you know, we are the voice of industry. And if somebody there, MAC, Migration Committee, make it easy, listening, please view our point of views, you know, look at it seriously and help us to keep our curry houses alive up and down the country. We provide value for money. We provide a great service.
Whether it be weddings, whether it be funerals sometimes, whether it be 21st birthdays, the heart of every community.
Absolutely, and that's including like village, small village.
Oh, villages,
you know, what I used to say before, you'll find in any village, you'll find two things, a bookie shop and a curry house at least.
Yes, absolutely.
So you can have a bet off your meal on that,
listen, what we've got to say is we didn't win British curry industry media personality of the year.
I hear.
But we will be nominating next year. I know the Sun have nominated as well, so we'll get that prize back off GB News at some point.
Well, if you deserve it. Nobody buys an award at the BBCA.
But
we give it on their merits.
Where's the best area? Is it Brick Lane, Rusholme, Birmingham? We've got about a minute less than a minute.
I think the curry houses up and down the curry are
but
brilliant.
where's the
really.
best? Where's the
it's
best
not a
area?
specific area. They work hard. They, you know, they have the passion to serve their local community and earn a living.
Yes.
And that's what we've been doing it for decades. And we want to continue serving the community, the locals, and the Member of Parliament if they help us. Otherwise, no.
Absolutely.
And the ministers.
Absolutely. OK, well, the British Bangladeshi Caterers Association continues to go from strength to strength and obviously are supporting that industry, which I agree with you, Toff, is the heart of every community, every town, village and city in the United Kingdom. And I think if you're proud to be British, you've got to be proud of your British Bangladeshi curry house. OK, we're going to say goodbye to Toff Mayer, who's the president of the British Bangladeshi Caterers Association, and we're going to say hello back to Tom from the Free Speech Union, and we'll have the press preview straight after this.
We've been talking this morning about a new theme park which is going to be built. The Universal Studios apparently are going to build it in Bedfordshire. We've been asking many of you to give us some ideas for theme parks. Alison in South Wales says in the new theme park at 5 p.m. every day they could have the PIP parade. All the people driving their brand new Motability cars.
Instead of the water rapids, you can have a road you go down that's full of potholes in a car with bad suspension and flat tyres. I don't know why they're bothering building a theme park in this country. They're going right, no one will be able to afford to go to it anyway.
How about the Rachel Reeves ride, says Terry in Birmingham. You go round and round and vanish up your own deficit. It's the HS2 ride. It travels at high speed for 10 feet, where everyone gets off and into the replacement bus ride. Tickets are £50 if bought 5 months in advance, or £1,000 on the day.
There's a strong rumour going round that Rachel Reeves is going to have a kissing booth at this theme park. So what I do, mate, I shove a £5 in a pot and you can go and fill your boots.
Thank you very much indeed, and very generous of you. One from G, who says fast-track entry to every ride for illegals, plus a free night stay in the Parks Hotel and free food. New theme park bumper cars will have to pay a congestion charge, and the funhouse isn't built yet, despite Angela Rayner's pledge to build houses. What about Ghost Train doesn't move because the driver's on strike? Have a good day. This is brilliant for the theme park. How about grow your own cannabis farm? Yeah, that's a good one. An Ethiopian safari park narrated by Angela Rayner. Says Gary in Durham. How about that? This sums up the Labour Party to me. The one idea they have to improve growth for the economy is to basically have a bloody big fun fair. It's the type of idea primary school children would pitch, given 10 minutes to come up with something. Well, it turns out, Matt, in Royston, that it's not even their idea. And they're now trying to claim it's their idea, even though it was actually the Tories.
They have done brilliantly on breakfast, but you know on Drive you've done brilliantly as well. Downhill slide rides surrounded by ULEZ cameras so that people are fined on exit. Love it. You could have a Birmingham-themed whack the rat stall. If you whack the rat, you can have your bin emptied for free. On the Labour-themed...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is the press preview with Andre Walker, Asher Gould, and our guest co-host this evening is Tom Harris, Director of Data from the Free Speech Union. So I guess we just get straight into it, Asher.
Yeah, let's start with the Daily Star. Free pack of 6 ice creams, so you can get yourself your calories for the next day.
What are those? Cones?
Cones. Oh, they weren't ice creams in my day. Anyway, also, ER talks via corgis. Her Madge Yappy and Glorious. Yes, Fergie Ghost claims. Fergie is claiming that the Queen is talking to her via her corgis that were left to Fergie, and more, crazier things have happened to Fergie anyway.
How do they come up with this?
People say that
we are not amused. It said just while it's having its
people say that your dog takes on the personality of the owner.
But to be possessed by the owner.
Have you ever seen the dog that looks like Nigel Farage?
I haven't. Is it an AI dog or a real dog?
No, a Chihuahua really does look like him.
Because this is it. This could be an AI thing.
I've got to be honest with you. If you believe that your corgi is talking the Queen's message to you, then things have gone a bit badly wrong.
Yeah, but I think this is where I think she left them to Fergie. Anyway, the I paper. UK scrambles for new migrant deal in Balkans after Albania snub. Well, we are getting balkanised in this country. So anyway, Starmer is to begin talks today with third countries thought to include Bosnia, Serbia and North Macedonia to act as return hubs to take failed asylum seekers from the UK. We'd already paid hundreds of millions to Rwanda. And I think even Germany and the EU are now taking over our facilities.
And then we had this potential prisoner deal with Estonia. So there seems to have been all of these countries
that were prisoners for our prisoners.
Yeah, right, what I've done for everyone who's interested, at Andre JP Walker on Twitter, I've just retweeted the dog that looks like Nigel Farage.
There you go.
So everyone, and Tom,
but that's not the. There was an even better picture. Is that dog? Yeah.
Tom, let's show you the dog that looks like Nigel Farage.
It does look like this.
It has the airs and the graces.
It does. UK scrambles. Starmer begins talks today with third countries. So basically, he wants to do the Rwanda deal, but he's pretending that he.
And it was the first thing he scrapped on day one, day
like
two.
Like a little child.
He said, "Oh, it was always a gimmick. It was always a gimmick."
But they got through all the court cases, and it looked like it was about to happen. Yeah, and he stopped it. And
that's
turned up hundreds of millions of pounds.
But what's remarkable about that is that. We have been listening to the political left go on about how marvellous Africa is for generations, for years. Oh, they're much more civilised than us, all this sort of thing. The minute we wanted to send anyone to Africa, Africa became a dump, didn't it? That was horrendous. Right. Yeah. And now, let's go to the Balkans instead. Basically, what's the difference between Rwanda and the Balkans? Basically, there's white people in the Balkans. That's what they're talking about in reality.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is upside down, and it seems that all the rhetoric that gets thrown at the right, you're far right just for talking about any of this. They're now trying to find a way of talking about the same ideas and the same concepts, but not falling into the trap of using the same rhetoric.
And Starmer really didn't get that memo. He did the Enoch Powell speech.
I mean, this is it. And how do you do it? How do you do it? How do you find a sensible centre ground if you've been so radical that anyone suggesting anything is far, far right?
But we're now in poverty here. There's some African states where the GDP per capita is higher than this country. Can you believe that? I can believe it, but it's unbelievable as well at the same time. Miracle welfare...
What was it? Is it possible to be shocked and not surprised at the same time?
Yeah. In these days, I don't know what I feel anymore.
We don't know what to... I'm a smart, good-looking overachiever. Why can't I say so? Because it's sort of big-headed, isn't it? You know. A Eurovision top 10 performances of the 21st century. And what's that? The Boss is back. Yeah, that's Springsteen. He's about 85 now, but he's still the boss, and he's coming back. Fantastic. Reeves has tricks up her sleeve in desperate bid to avoid tax hikes. What's she going to do? Just kill off the old people who are already doing that, aren't they? So the farmers.
But why does she? I mean, this is it. She's now in a death spiral because she's not bringing enough receipts. Because she's squeezed everyone now, so the pips aren't just squeaking, the pips are popped.
She tried to blame Trump, and then the IMF came out and said, no, it's nothing, it's because of your incompetence.
Well, yeah,
Rachel from accounts.
Spending too much and taxing
she was worse. They were talking about Liz Truss. She was far worse than Liz Truss, and nobody cared.
No, it's politics. It's politics, isn't it?
What annoys me is the Labour Party always gets away with it because there's this feeling that, well, they're trying their best. You know, they're trying their best. I don't believe that for 1 second.
But that's why probably the Labour Party are the party that can potentially do things like the NHS, dealing with problems in the NHS. They can touch it and not immediately get called, you know, you're trying to destroy it. You're trying to privatise it. But
I mean, if you look at Andy Burnham, who I personally quite like, the reality is he prioritised protecting the trade unions over the lives of patients during his term as health secretary. If you look at these hospitals...
He's going up for the grooming gangs as well in his investigation.
Mid-staffs, the Royal Lancaster, that were just offing with the elderly, bluntly.
I have long defended my friend Gary Lineker. Not this time, says Simon Kellner. Yeah, he's gone a bit too far. He keeps accidentally being anti-Semitic, doesn't he? Can't help it. He doesn't mean to be. And this is the story where he retweeted a sort of trope of a rat, which is what they use, the Nazis, to mean Jews. And he said, I didn't see it, which I find very hard to believe for a goal poacher, someone who can spot things from I mean, I've worked with footballers, and the ones that are goal hangers like that, they can see everything, you know, they're aware of what's going on. The Guardian, Thames Water to be blocked from paying bonuses out of £3 billion loan. Ministers to stop senior staff receiving handout from emergency funds.
This is incredible, isn't it? The fact that it's a loan to save the company, and yet the bosses were in line to receive payments out of the loan. Bonus payment. I mean, I know that...
Again, shocked but not surprised.
But the argument is you want the best at the top of big companies.
Well, they're not the best.
They've just got mates.
And they've been paying out these dividends that got the company into trouble anyway.
I think the big problem that we've got is that profit is the price you pay for competition. I think profit without competition is a very, very bad idea.
Yeah, it's monopoly, it's oligarchy.
Because all that Thames Water's done...
More papers, Garçon.
They've prioritised giving money away, and there's no competition there in order to force up standards.
Yeah, it's interesting how they try and make competition happen. With the railways, they divide
that was awful.
The networks. You know, the network is the monopoly, but then the operators is the competition.
The problem that they've had...
And they all make money. The
problem that they've had with competitive tendering is that, and you've seen this particularly in the railways, they just pick the cheapest option, even if it can't be delivered. So I mean, they had one rail company. After, I think it was when GNER lost their licence, and basically it was bailed out within about 3 months.
Yeah. But I get so confused with the tickets. I mean, just go to Gatwick. Which do I choose? Which company do I choose? They're all different prices.
And then if you go from this station to that station, it's much cheaper.
It's a different price. And basically, we were told when it was all privatised, well, don't worry, it's going to be good for passengers. But actually, you've discovered you're on the wrong train with the ticket for a different operator. You've no idea. You just want to get there.
Funnily enough, this is what happened to Russell Quirk, who's another presenter on this station, and I told him to be very, very careful because he had the wrong ticket for the wrong train.
Right, yeah.
They'd gone to the right station, he'd bought the ticket, he'd got on the train, they said, no, it wasn't for this train.
Exactly.
But of course he attempted to challenge his fine and got a criminal conviction out of it.
Really?
Because what they do is, this is unbelievable. So you can't steal a train. You can't steal a train ride, right?
No.
You can't steal a train ride. You can steal a train, but that's not what we're talking about. Right, get with the programme, Tom.
Sorry.
But you can't steal a train ride. But of course, what happens is they then, when you don't pay the standard fare, because what they basically say is they say, right, if you buy your ticket before getting on the train, then you're entitled to a discounted ticket. But the actual fare price is 500 quid or whatever it is. It's not that much, but then you go. So then you pay on the train. But if you refuse to pay on the train to what you think is the fine, that's when you're fare dodged.
Oh, goodness.
So if you go and appeal it to court, you in stating that you've
admitted that you've done a criminal
your appeal,
thing.
you commit a crime in filing the appeal. Because you say, well, hang on a second, but you didn't have the discounted ticket, that's fine. But when we offered you the proper ticket, you refused to buy that as well. Yes, I did, because, no, the case closed.
And I just want to go from London Victoria to Gatwick. That's all I want to do.
By the way, I just want to say to everyone, the Heathrow Express is quite good. The Gatwick Express is a con. It is 3 minutes quicker than the normal train and twice the price. Do not get the Gatwick Express.
Well, especially if you live near here. London Bridge to Gatwick is really quick.
You can get the tube to Heathrow. You can get the tube to Heathrow.
You can get the Elizabeth
It's a
line.
long few stops.
Yeah, it's a Piccadilly line.
There's a Heathrow Connect as well, isn't there? Oh, you know how they say, don't make it sound like everyone's from the Thames Valley.
You can get a National Express,
That's a very good point. We are London centric.
Right, here we go. Tom's impossible to resist, even if the script's a bit silly. I find it easy to resist Tom Cruise films now.
Have you noticed that Tom Cruise his tooth is below his nose?
No, isn't that true for all of us?
No, the gap between your teeth is below your nose. Like he's got a uni tooth in front of his.
Well, he always had jaggedy teeth.
Maybe
when
that's
he
his
started
secret.
out, but then I think he had some work done on his.
But he did better with jaggedy teeth, didn't he?
Back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day. $9.5 billion staggering cost of benefit fraud and claim clangers. More than $9 billion of taxpayers' money, you can bet this is an underestimate, has been overpaid in benefits, mostly through fraud, official figures show. There's a lot of people claiming, aren't they, in two different names, and they're subletting their properties. And, in London you can get the equivalent of about a £50,000-60,000 pay if you've got a few kids and they get you a place. I mean,
well, who's auditing all of this? Who's checking it? And you've got all of these people who are paid in these departments and these local authorities.
They used to follow people and do I don't think they do any of that.
Well, I mean, you need leaders who are going to go in and say, show me the books.
Show me all these cars that are claimed under disability. I mean, I know some people need them, but there's a lot of people who, you've got some ADHD or something, and why would you need a car? Do you know what I mean?
I'm entitled to a carer.
Well, you've got one. Yeah, I'm here at work, and you've got one that lives with you, haven't you?
What are you entitled to a carer?
I've got a mate who said, I got myself diagnosed with ADHD. I pay the wife $5,000 a year to be my carer.
There you go. That's
the only reason I've not done it. If I had a job which didn't involve me being, anti wasteful government spending and whatever, I would just get myself a carer. Because you can imagine, I could get a car, driver. $5,000 a year goes a long way if you're only working part time.
I totally agree. Yeah, but it's just.
Well, he's already got quite. Tom's got quite a few servants, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has.
They're off at the moment.
Daily Express, King of Hugs, Charles on better side of cancer battle. That's good news. And again, free pack of 6 ice creams from Iceland. Right, okay. Not the country, the shop. Rebecca Wilcox urges MPs to back Dame Esther's call for assisted dying choice. Mum deserves peace of mind in right to die fight. Dame Esther Ranson's daughter has urged MPs to give her mum peace of mind and back assisted dying today. Rebecca Wilcox and the campaigner and TV star would watch the crucial Commons debate from her home. She added, that her mother was coping on a new drug as she lives with terminal lung cancer. That's the thing. They did, while she was asking for this, they found a new drug that would extend her life, and they're often not very accurate with the, you know, you've got 6 months. I mean, I know there's certain, like, neuron disease and things which is, you know, they can't do anything about, but cancers and other things, you don't know if they're going to regress or if there's some new drug's going to be found.
That's right. The frontier of medicine is always jumping. And I also wonder, I mean, this is a more debatable point, but when it comes to changing the law on these sorts of things, how much a sort of single celebrity voice should be in the vanguard of it. I do get it that sometimes that helps to get things progressed and to move barriers out the way if there's a celebrity voice.
Because they're cleverer than us celebrities.
But should that be the way in which we make law?
Have you ever seen the Team America World Police where they have the Tim Robbins and they go, let me explain how it works. There's these corporations and they're all corporation-y and we do this corporation type stuff and that damages the world. I mean, it was true what Ricky Gervais said. He said, listen, I don't know why you're preaching about things. Most of you went to school for less time than Greta Thunberg.
Right, look, Mark Graham's looking through the window, very angry. He's getting ready for his show at 6. So, mate, if you're listening in the morning, that is, so get ready for that. In the meantime, we're doing the papers, and I suppose we'll take some calls back in a couple of minutes.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
So we were talking earlier to the British Bangladeshi Caterers Association President, Toff Mir, about the risks to the Indian restaurant business, and that is business rates, that's national insurance, that's the cost of food prices, but also this ludicrous Ed Miliband situation where he wants to ban clay tandoori ovens on the basis that they use gas. He wants to come up with electric versions of them, which we just don't think will work. Anyway, Carol in Manchester apparently is a curry lover. Carol, how are you?
Absolutely, I am with this guy. I'm absolutely there. It's not only a curry lover, you know, like in the 70s when where I lived, I won't keep going on where Bangor, where I live or whatever.
You lived in Bangor?
Well, Bangor where I lived. But the thing is like when we were introduced to it as young people at 15, 16 and 17, 18, do you know what was there for us, right?
Those metal pies, what they call
where we all used to fight with gangs and whatever, you know, like. And anyway, with this, they were the first people in the area, right, where they gave us manners, they gave us anything, you know, like. We were like 16, 17, your boyfriend, including my husband, my gorgeous husband, at 15, 16 and 17. We went there and it was beautiful. They stuck out the table, they did everything. It was the first time that I ever, and the food was absolutely amazing.
So are you saying that what you're talking about predates the Indian restaurants where people started just inviting you around to their homes?
No.
Oh, you mean going out to a restaurant for the working class? You didn't really do that until Indians, yeah.
As kids, we never had. If you're going out to a home or whatever, it's relatives and stuff like that. But we never had You know, we couldn't afford to go to the fancy restaurants.
Because originally there was fish and chips and obviously Chinese, but they're all takeaways. Indian was the first sort of restaurant experience that a lot of people...
No,
like when I was 18, our mates, we'd all go out to a restaurant. You'd never do that before.
It's an amazing thought, isn't it? That until the Bangladeshis and others came over, I think it was Indians and then Bangladeshis took over the industry, literally people didn't go to restaurants because there was no restaurants to go to that they could afford.
No, you couldn't afford it in any way or any form. In the 70s, end of 70s, early 80s, and when they brought that out, and it was dead funny because, like, even now, I must ask, I'll have to ask the question, but they say Indian restaurants, but Indian restaurants, right, with Pakistanis or other Asian people or whatever.
Yeah, if you go to India and ask for a chicken tikka masala, they look at you, they go, what are you talking about? Well, never heard of it.
So just to explain some of the terminology, effectively, I guess Indian food is like just saying a hamburger or whatever. It's not a reference to.
And it was something that was.
No, but just to be clear, I'm sorry, I'm not comparing Indian food to a hamburger. I'm just saying that what Indian food is not a reference to who's made it. It's a reference to what we perceive to be a genre of food, the chicken tikka masalas, the vindaloos, all that sort of thing, rather than it being who particularly cooks it. Very, very few quote-unquote Indian restaurants are owned by people who are Indian.
It's like China. You go to China and ask for an egg foo young and chicken chow mein. Again, they'll go, what are you talking about, Willis? Because they don't do that. It's a New York thing.
Can I just say, the ordinary person, in them days, right, is like it was something so new.
Yes.
You know, like loads of people that could afford things went to Manchester, and I'm only up the road on them days as Manchester, and I went poor, but I went well off. You know, like it was amazing. You know, like
it was like £3 for a main dish and all that.
To have that.
Do you know what we need to do? And I'm going to get Toff Mir back from the British Bangladesh Caterers Association, and we're going to do something which I've always wanted to do: eat a Queen Victoria chicken curry. Right. So the recipe has been lost. The recipe has been lost, but believe it or not, it's made with chicken and apples.
But how do you know if the recipe is
the precise recipe's been lost? But apparently, Indian chefs will know why it's made with apples, and it's something to do with the particular fruit or veg they used in India couldn't be taken across all that way in the time, so it wouldn't survive the 3 months.
You get pickles with apples. You get
so what apparently they did was they found a fruit in the United Kingdom which was at least vaguely similar in terms of results. But she had a curry lunch every day. Every single day, she had chicken curry.
They've got a great chain in Manchester, you know, Abdul's. I used to go, and it was like a McDonald's sort of. There's about 5 of them. It was great. Abdul's.
Just in Manchester.
It's just in the Manchester. This Abdul's company. Yeah.
Do you know my favourite thing at the moment is this? Right, you can buy from Chinese restaurants black bean and crispy chili in a thing. Just throw some chicken in, fry it up, stick that on a bit of rice.
Fray Bentos. Someone's texted, and that was the name of the ones in the tin. That was where, you know, early 70s, where it was exotic.
Fray Bentos, pie in a tin.
Yeah. It was Indian pie in a tin.
Was it? Is that what it is?
Yeah,
is that what Fray Bentos is?
Yeah, it was a sort of Indian thing. Yeah. I don't know if it was a pie actually. It was in like a pie tin. I can't remember. I didn't really have them. I just went straight onto the real. But in the 70s, they put like sultanas and all that in, didn't they?
It was also
like coronation chicken.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of British from the Victorian era, obviously because of the Empire, there was a lot of influence back then. We used to have a guy on with James Whale. We used to have a guy who was part of the rest. I think it's called the King George. It's like 100. It's the oldest Indian restaurant in London. It's called, I think, the King George or something. It's from that time, so there is old recipes.
Well, I'll tell you what's absolutely extraordinary. The way that Indian restaurants have become so popular in this country. It's extraordinary.
Well, probably because of what Carol said.
But they've been like that for decades now.
Since the 70s or the late 70s.
Do you remember those old adverts in the cinema? Where they go for the finest curries, and then they just put on the end Abdul's place on the high street.
For the local, and the intermission.
One of the early ones in Birmingham was the Gaylord. And that was a great restaurant, but that was in the early, in fact, late 60s, early 70s. They were a different kettle of
By the
fish.
way, can I just talk to you about the Telegraph front page? Because it's not a surprise here, but security fears over China-Mauritius deal. So just to be clear, what we've said on this show before, we believe that giving away the Chagos Islands clears...
said that right at the beginning.
Yeah, clears the way for China to invade Taiwan.
Yeah.
And that is the reason for doing it. And so the reality is, Mauritius is desperate to get hold of the Chagos Islands so it can give it to China and China can invade Taiwan. The reason is we'll stop the Chinese invasion of Taiwan by cutting off the oil. Two ways of doing it: cutting it off in Uyghur, which is why the Chinese are not very keen on the Uyghur Muslims, and also cut them off for sailing it round via the Chagos Islands. Immediately, that moron David Lammy starts doing a deal with Mauritius over the Chagos Islands. China and Mauritius are about to sign a new treaty to become closer partners in terms of diplomacy. The Diego Garcia base is going to be given to the Chinese, and that will clear the way for the invasion of Taiwan.
But America are staying there, so you're going to have a bit of trouble.
Well, they've only got a 100-year lease.
Yeah, for 100 years they'll be all right.
I think what they'll do, is I think the Chinese will try and buy the Chagos Islands off Mauritius, but they may say no. Sorry, I think Trump will try and buy it.
There was a story I just saw breaking when I was coming in. I was reading about it, that America have found a kill switch in the solar panels that they've bought from China that could actually turn off the electric supply in America, and they're saying, well, they're over here as well, so we've got looks like we've got another scandal. Of course the Chinese deny it all, but they would, wouldn't they?
Well, they found in the 5G network all sorts of monitoring equipment.
Yeah, they've got killer kettles and things like that. You know, you've got to be careful. Security fears over China, as we just did that. Falklands landing craft repainted for Pride. Did you see this? They paint. This was the Falklands craft that invaded, and it was painted with all the Pride colours. I mean, the guys that were represented, pretty much.
What relevance does the gay community have to the Falkland Islands?
The 1982 Falkland Islands landing? Absolutely none. I mean, obviously there would have been some gay men probably in the squad, but you know, so what? That's always been the way.
It's ridiculous. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what I particularly hate at Gay Pride Week. Sorry, Gay Pride Year,
which we're about to go into.
Oh, it's the whole
round the corner.
But it's these bloody. It's the police. Right. So basically, the police go, look, we need to do our diversity thing. Let's paint up a car. Right. Yeah. I mean, there was one police car driving around with a bloke in his underpants dancing on top of it.
And the macaron.
Yeah, I've apologised for that. But did you see the zebra crossing in all the colours, and the police horses were freaking out? They're really anti-transphobes. Horses.
My favourite was when I did the Saturday show with Danielle Nichols. We were talking about the fact that there was this bloke twerking in his underpants in front of a load of kids who'd been taken to this gay pride march in New York. And just as we were talking about it, we showed the footage on the telly. And my 8-year-old nephew walked in to see my brother watching this. He went, what on earth is he doing? And my brother went, he's just getting ready for swimming. And he went, yeah, all right, no problem. That was the end of it. But it just showed you there was all the evidence you needed that an 8-year-old is not interested in a grown man twerking. They're just not interested at all. In fact, sometimes quite the opposite. More next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is the press preview with Andre Walker, Asher Gould and Tom Harris. Yeah, this story, Rupert Lowe. Now, by the way, I know many of you like Rupert Lowe. As far as I'm concerned, he's a liar and a bully. And I've got to say to you that what he has told the story he's telling is not true. I guarantee you it's not true.
You better justify what you've said.
Well, let me tell you what his story is. The implication of the story is that because he supported Tommy Robinson, right, and Zia Youssef, because he's a Muslim, effectively, is trying to push people out of the party who are Tommy Robinson supporters. He's never said it, but this is the implication of all of it. That story is not true. I mean, the reality is that Rupert Lowe is just a selfie narcissist who is attempting to derail the party, Reform Party UK.
Yeah, but they have dropped those charges today, haven't they? Well, there weren't any charges. They've said there's nothing even to look into.
Look.
So and now he's suing.
Listen,
if they don't
Rupert Lowe, now, whether it's criminal or not, Rupert Lowe's threatened everyone. I could show you my own Twitter, right, where he's sent me messages threatening to sue me. He's threatened to sue everybody.
He might do again later.
Oh, he will. I could paper the walls with solicitors' letters from Rupert Lowe. That isn't true. But look...
But he might be going through with it with ZU. He's given them until a certain time to respond to these things. This is not the views of talkTV.
Well, by the way, I'll tell you what I did. He sent me a message saying that if I didn't retract a comment I'd made about him, I said, I'll make a whole video on what a cock you are, which is exactly what I did.
I think you've made it worse.
But the problem is, what he's saying is fundamentally not the issue. The issue is that he's trying to derail Reform UK.
Well, the issue is he accuses them of, irresponsibly using the law.
Well,
and his point is they may use that in the future if they do get into power.
Well, I've got to be honest with you. I don't believe in. Well, it depends what threats he made, but he didn't make any threats of violence to me. He just threatened me with.
So
with
in
lawyers.
a way, he's right. When the police took his guns off him and everything because of this, and it turns out there's not enough evidence to follow forward with it. So at the moment, he's looking. Well, I don't know. It's a very confusing issue, and I suppose things will come out.
It's very sad for people on the ground who are looking for an alternative.
That was the thing, wasn't it?
From the Conservatives, from the Labour, from Liberal Democrats, we're looking for an alternative, and clearly Reform is really the only other horse in this race. Yeah. And to have whatever the rights and the wrongs of this spat are, to have this happening so publicly is a tragedy.
But Farage did read it right, because I thought, well, this will affect them. But actually, when we look at the council elections, people did in the end go, well, they are the only ones, the only alternative, and they did obviously unbelievably well. So they're basically carrying the Ming vase, aren't they?
The other thing about Rupert Lowe, which I find concerning. Right, he's not the only person to do this. He reads every comment on every internet forum about him. He reads all the Twitter comments about himself. He went on my YouTube when I had a go at him and read every single one of the 2,000 comments, or appeared to, because he had a working knowledge of them. That suggests a level of narcissism that is probably quite unhelpful.
But detailed as well. I mean, in some ways it's a good thing. Anyway, it says here, Farage is running a cult, says ex-Reform MP Lowe. Former Reform UK MP Rupert Lowe has accused Farage's party of being the cult of Nigel and says he was the victim of a political assassination attempt. Speaking to Victoria Derbyshire, Lowe suggested his relationship with Reform UK changed when Elon Musk came out and was complimentary about me and less complimentary about Nigel. The Great Yarmouth MP made the comments in his first broadcast interview since the Crown prosecution. Reform UK declined to comment on Lowe's latest attack on Nigel Farage, who was previously dismissed the row as irrelevant, and it did seem so that it is, to the continued advance of the party. I really think it is white noise around what is a huge energetic movement now, Reform, coming across the country and coming for the other two parties, said Sarah Pochin, who won the Runcorn and Helston.
I've got to be honest with you about Sarah Pochin. I don't think it would have been. I don't think it's great what's happened with Rupert Lowe, and I'm sorry that he's left, but I'd rather have Sarah Pochin than Rupert Lowe for multiple reasons. I think she's more of a political opportunity. They need a woman there. I know we always say we shouldn't go for diversity quotas, but I think they do. She's younger. I just think she's a better option. I'd have rather keep Rupert Lowe, but the problem is with Rupert Lowe, he literally believes every word, every positive word that's written about him, and the Elon Musk thing sent him spiralling towards it. I mean, I said to him, you know, in the private conversations I had with him, I said, if you were not such a narcissist, you wouldn't have committed political ritual suicide in front of everyone.
And he said, I'm going to sue you again for that, Andre. Trump's critics and the supporters unite against Qatar plane deal. In his eagerness to accept a plane from Qatar, Donald Trump has achieved a remarkable feat, uniting many partisans across America's bitter political divide. The problem for the White House is that unity is happening in opposition to it. Predictably, Trump's opponents in the Democratic Party slammed the president after he indicated he would accept the luxury jet from the Qatari royal family. I mean, imagine putting that through your expenses thing. Yeah, I received a £400 million,
zeros, wouldn't it? Yeah,
but I would have thought he'll give it. I don't think he'll take it.
Do you know
with
my
him
favourite thing about him? My favourite thing about him, the Emir of Qatar, he's banned from a gay nightclub for fighting. I'm not joking. So first of all, I'm not joking. Al Thani claims that he didn't know that the nightclub called GAY was a gay nightclub.
Is it?
Right? Yeah, unbelievable.
You can say gay. You don't have to spell it out.
He went,
you can say it now.
So the nightclub is called Gay. Al Thani didn't know it was a gay nightclub when he went in with his friend from school, who apparently stays with him when he's in London. And apparently there was a fight in which a bodyguard intervened, and they all left because they all had diplomatic passports.
Do you think he's going to try Trump get away with it like Jimmy Cranky in Scotland with the Winnebago outside? Do you think you're going to have a jet outside Trump's, sister's house?
Like Derek Hatton.
Yeah. What, did he get a jet for Liverpool?
No, Derek Hatton years ago, and we shouldn't say too much because there's an ongoing case.
He used to work here, Derek Hatton.
But years and years ago, somebody said that he'd accepted a horse box, hadn't he, or something. Well, a bit weird.
What, to live in? There are some luxury ones. BBC boss vows to tackle Britain's crisis of trust. I think it's too late for them. The BBC can help tackle a crisis of trust in UK society, the broadcaster director general has said. Well, Tim Davie has used a speech to set out measures he says will allow the broadcaster to play a leading role in reversing a breakdown in trust in information institutions, as well as combating division and disconnection. We just don't like it, and you're biased, and you know it's totally gone down the tubes.
They don't understand why there is no trust. If you don't understand what's caused trust in our society to evaporate, if you don't get why that has happened, if you're befuddled by the rise of reform, then this is not going to work. More of the same. It's exactly what Keir Starmer said. More of the same.
Here's an example, because the dishonesty of the elite and the way they've tried to bully people into agreeing with them. When Chris Whitty, Patrick Vallance, the BBC, all these people said that the coronavirus vaccine was 100% safe 100% of the time, that ruined it. If there was now a vaccine which definitely worked and definitely ensured that you would be cured of cancer, nobody would take it. You can only do it once. You only do that once, and that's the end of it.
And also, they ban net zero. You know, people who say, "Oh no, they want to challenge the green argument." And in fact, today it came out that it's expanding. The ice shelves in Antarctica are expanding at an unprecedented rate. So it's a load of bunkum. I think it's just tax raising.
By the way, someone's had to go at me again for my comments on Rupert Lowe. I will tell you a fact. If you knew what I knew, you would not be on Rupert Lowe's side. But I won't go any further than that, unfortunately. And people go, well, why don't you just admit what you know? Look, the guys are wrong, and as far as I'm concerned. But anyway.
You might be hearing from his... That's not the talkTV's position. Film venue...
By the way, wrong, and I mean purely politically, let's just be clear.
Film venue latest to axe the kneecap screening. These are the guys who said... F Israel and kill your local MP. I mean, why aren't they under arrest already? A Cheshire venue has cancelled a screening of a film about hip-hop trio Kneecap after a clip on social media appeared to show one of the band members calling for the death of British MPs. Story House in Chester, sounds like one of those, arty cinemas, was due to show Kneecap, a comedy drama about the rise of the band from Belfast. I'm sure that's amazing. As part of its
hilarious.
Hilarious. A Moonflight Flicks in the Park series at Grosvenor Park on 30th of July. Counter-terror police are also investigating footage which appeared to show a band member shouting at Hamas, up Hezbollah.
This is a really important point from free expression, because we don't like deplatforming.
No.
We don't like writing to a cinema and saying, take this film off, or pull this film, or pull this performance. So that should inherently make us go, OK, not comfortable. But
They
on
were
the other
promoting
side,
prescribed terrorist groups.
Exactly. On the other issue, on the flip side,
and
was actually
saying kill MBs. That's unbelievable.
This is a terrorist organisation.
Well,
so this is actually an illegal.
This was already illegal before.
But we muddle up the issue.
Can I stand up for my earlier? If they say kill British MPs and nobody's going to do it, what makes it different?
Well, it's already happened twice.
The point I was making is the Hezbollah and Hamas. Terrorist organisation.
And also they could incite. They've got kids who are like 16, so they might incite a stupid kid to do something.
Hang on a second. What happens if I support Hamas? Right? Does that have any meaningful value? So, as an example, I could support the idea. I mean, I don't, by the way, but I could support the idea of Hamas not being a prescribed terrorist group in the UK. That would be supporting Hamas, wouldn't it?
Then we have to go into the Terrorist Act and look at the reading of the Terrorist Act.
Well, there is a law firm doing that. Do you remember? I mean, he didn't seem very good, the guy who was on it.
Again, I'm not a lawyer, so I wouldn't want to unpick the wording. But
look, these guys are tasteless idiots.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah, they're fools.
They weren't even around when the Troubles were on.
I mean, I will say one thing. I find it odd that people from Belfast might find it funny calling yourself Kneecap. Because whatever community you're from in Belfast, there was people who were terrorised for years.
But that's what I mean. These weren't even born at the time. They're like cosplaying it, aren't they? I mean, one's got a stupid balaclava on his head.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we've got to take. Oh no, we're going to take a break, and then we'll be back with Heather in Gurvan.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Okay, right, I just want to show you this picture to everyone in the studio. Look, there is the Tom Cruise central tooth. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, it's very maybe that's his secret. That's why
he's got under the middle
of your philtrum.
Under your philtrum, he's got a tooth.
But they do say symmetry is the very best looking, so maybe that is the Hollywood secret.
His tooth's in the wrong place. Anyway, this is the press preview with Andre Walker, Asher Gould, and Tom Harris, and we've now got Heather in Gavan, who is
she's on a better phone line. Heather.
Hello.
Hello.
Well, I've been looking at this with Lucy Connolly, the busted kneecap with the Irish band, and the pro-Palestinian protest about kill all the Jews. What is the big difference between the pro-Palestinian want to kill all the Jews and busted kneecap inciting to kill politicians And why is Lucy Connolly is the political prisoner and got sent
Well,
to
that's the
prison
You've just
for
answered your own
fighting
question. It's the political side you're on, Heather.
burning a hotel.
Yeah, well, it's because of the politics, isn't it, Heather?
And it's the heart of the issue.
She's a
isn't it?
political
It comes back
prisoner.
to that.
Would you say she's a political?
is-
I would say she's a political prisoner.
It's a big thing to say, but I think...
But not really. You can see it was. I mean, you saw Starmer say we will charge and convict these people. I mean, that's prejudice in the case. If you're a judge, the former head of the defence lawyers, the CPP, was saying that he's now Prime Minister. If you want to progress in your career, and they're already all captured by the left anyway, you can see how this has all happened. And talk about prejudice in the case. And it comes out that he lied. Starmer said these were all bussed in and trained in, they're all far right, and the police report last week said they weren't far right. They were from the local areas, and most weren't even doing violent stuff. They were just shouting. One guy got arrested for just shaking his fist, and other people were saying, you know, F this, F the police or whatever, and they were just getting arrested and charged. I mean, it's a massive freedom of speech issue,
It's
isn't
absolutely huge, and I think the heart of it is what is incitement to violence.
Yes.
Because these three examples we're talking about, the kneecap rhetoric, talking about
Well, that
what
obviously
Lucy
would have been
Connolly
illegal
tweeting.
anyway.
What is incitement to violence?
There was even a woman filming, just videoing, who got arrested just for standing and videoing.
And also
What's that about?
The other thing, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. I mean, it's
don't you start?
The people who shout that, want a genocide against Jewish people. They don't want to just abolish Israel.
Yeah.
So if you say from the river to the sea, surely it means driving them into the sea, doesn't it? Which is a term for genocide.
Well, it reminds me of when the Metropolitan Police became theologians and were arguing that jihad is an internal state of being. This is the sort of argument and debate you go into when the whole temperature in the room has changed, and that's what I think has happened. I think the politics of this is absolutely in the room and affecting the way that the courts are acting and things like that.
By the way, you've got this story. Just go for it. But I have to say, who is, if you were to be asked, who was known as the Grantham Lass? The answer is nobody. But they're claiming anyway, so go on.
She was the Iron Lady. Margaret Thatcher Festival planned for centenary. It's going to be like a Glastonbury, isn't it? A festival to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Margaret Thatcher's birth is due to be held in her hometown later this year. The former Tory Prime Minister was born in Grantham, Lincolnshire in 1925 and died in April 2013, 87 years old. South Kesteven District Council is planning to programme of the events during the during week of 30th of October. A council meeting earlier heard ideas being suggested for the festival, including themed beers with names such as the Lady or Grantham.
Hang on,
Lass.
you can't make an alcoholic drink called Thatcher's. You'll get sued.
It'd be Iron Lady.
Yeah,
It would be Iron Lady, wouldn't it? You know what I mean? And it would have a little bit of taste of iron.
I love it. Who was it who got heckled? I think there was a Conservative leader. I think it might have been David Cameron. And somebody was sat on the front row at Conservative Party conference, nodding away sagely during his speech. And he said, "We need a statue of Margaret Thatcher." And the bloke went, "Make it of iron."
Well, there was one with the handbag, wasn't there? There's one in.
Well, there's one that's lost its head. I'll tell you what, that was a disgrace when they decapitated it, because it's one piece of stone. It cost them £250,000, and somebody took a hammer to it.
Oh, it's just terrible. I mean, when her Thatcher was unveiled, when her statue was unveiled in Parliament, didn't
they have to move
it stone or is it bronze?
No, it's bronze.
It's bronze. And she said, I would wish that it were iron. But I am nevertheless very happy to be unveiling this statue.
Didn't they have to move the one that was in Parliament Square because it got a lot.
So there's one now. The one that lost its head. Is now in the Guildhall Museum in the City of London.
Oh, okay. That's close by, yeah.
Anyway, French taxi driver charged with theft after Lamy dispute. French police have charged a taxi driver with stealing luggage and cash from the UK Foreign Secretary Dave Lamy and his wife Nicola. Have you seen pictures? By the way, there's pictures out of the inside of the cab after, and it's just left with strewn with food and foil and bits and I had a look, and there was a wrapper of a sherbet, Dib Dab, Kipling French fancy wrappers, and there was Bombay Bad Boy pot noodle. I mean, it was 600 mile and they were eating like junk food, and they just left it disgustingly on the cab. But something very weird has gone on here, because apparently it was prepaid, and then the driver said something like he wants more money because he was in danger because he was the Foreign Secretary, and David Lammy wouldn't do it, and he snatched the receipt, and we don't know what's gone on there, but it's a bit nefarious. And why should you get a £600? He would have charged it for us. He'll charge us for us.
But he's a minister of the Crown. You get in a car and it's paid for. I mean, that is what you do.
No, this was his own ski trip, wasn't it?
I suppose that is the difference here, is that it wasn't Crown business.
The trick that Blair always used to do was he always used to go for a meeting with the Italian president or Italian Prime Minister on his way to Tuscany.
So this is an episode of Yes, Prime Minister.
Which meant the Prime Ministerial jet could take him to Rome, and then he could get his own car.
There is a whole episode in Yes, Prime Minister about this. He says, I can't have my own personal chef. OK, I will have lunch with the ambassador from Romania on Monday, with the ambassador from Switzerland on Tuesday, with lunch then that's on the government.
So Blair would stop off for a bunga party, would he, on the way?
I don't think it was a bunga party.
That's what Berlusconi did. He was living in a bunga party.
What was a bunga party?
Well, it was basically, like what P. Diddy is getting, it's that sort of thing, but an Italian-style one. It was Berlusconi. It was a very scantily clad lady. It's a very unsavoury event.
I see what he did. So he went with the King and Queen Camilla to Italy after the state visit, and then decided to get a taxi to his holiday in France.
Ski resort. In France.
But I think
ski resort, I'll tell you what, I would love to see Lammy on skis. I'd pay 600 quid. I'd pay 600 quid for that.
But I mean, he's claimed a lot on travel. I bet this would have ended up in a travel claim somehow. He probably was going to meet someone, ambassador of this and that there, so he would...
Yeah. I mean, if you're Foreign Secretary, you're going to claim a lot on travel, but it has to be above board.
Ridiculous and stupid as well. Marie Antoinette, invented the X-ray, and Henry VII followed Henry VIII. Unbelievably thick.
Who succeeded Henry VIII? Now, the answer is King Edward, but if you said Henry IX, at least you crawl out with some dignity. Right? He said Henry VII. I mean, he hasn't even basically got the concept.
Like Leo the 14th.
He hasn't got the concept that somebody's second is number 2, somebody's third is number 3.
But on another note, I mean, it is a bit unsavoury that a foreign secretary is getting. You wouldn't have seen that years ago. It just shows the quality of the people that
getting
are now getting in a fracas with a cab driver.
Oh yeah,
that would never have happened.
But as somebody said the other day, in fact, it was Lois Perry's coming up in a minute. There was this incident with Ed Miliband where they were saying that he'd invest in some green company that had benefited from government contracts, and what she said was, and I think this is right. She said, when I was a kid, the Prime Minister had struggled to survive that because of, the fact, he's appointed this man. What did Keir Starmer know and when? And they all just shrug their shoulders now, don't they? Who cares? The fact that he's compromised, the fact that Ed Miliband is implementing green technologies, which it's hard to believe he actually believes are green. I mean, the environmental damage of electric cars is just unbelievable. The decommissioning of all these nasty cobalt batteries, horrendous green disaster.
And they're digging up a farmland as well. And have you noticed his wife and Benedict Cumberbatch and all those sort of people are objecting to a block of flats they want to build in their area? So they don't like it. They don't like it when it's down their end, do they? But they don't mind other people having loads of windmills and ruining farmland.
Who's in government? If it were the Tories, then the media and the civil service would be out for them.
Yeah.
Well, this Lammy story,
but now they can't go further than where they are at the moment.
I mean, look. So David Lammy has a battle with a taxi driver of some description. He's wrecked the place. He's eaten a Bombay bad boy blooming pot noodle in the back of the car. Who does that?
Well, I embellished.
Oh, sorry. Okay, but he's wrecked the place. And Dominic Raab gets sacked for allegedly throwing a slice of tomato at someone, which probably didn't happen.
It was actually a whole tomato.
It was a whole tomato.
That is a more serious matter. But Lammy, none of this is really in the mainstream media. It like Andre says, if it would have been a Tory or a Lib Dem, as they really are, it would have been all over, splashed over. Do you remember Boris? Everything that
Boris,
he did.
Partygate.
Yeah,
and remember that Keir Starmer was drinking a beer with his.
And who ran that investigation? She then got promoted to
be chief of staff.
Your chief of staff, when her son became an MP in a set area.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, unbelievable what happened. And then, of course, you remember his wife smashed the bottle and that all got reported. They never report any of that with Starmer, would they? Reform UK stands by councillor sacked by police. A Reform UK council leader has defended one of his newly elected colleagues after it was revealed he had been sacked from his role as a police officer. Andrew Hamilton Gray won a seat on Leicestershire County Council in this month's local elections when Reform became the largest party on the authority. However, it emerged Hamilton Gray was dismissed by Leicestershire Police last year after a misconduct hearing found he had called in sick to... Anyway, he was...
Hang on a second. It's Eurovision tonight, is it?
No, it's on Saturday.
No,
semi-final.
The second semi-final. So one's on Tuesday, one's on the Thursday.
We never used to have semi-finals in Eurovision.
It was just Terry Wogan. I thought that was just the Terry Wogan evening.
Right. The problem is the producer's given us some bum details. Let me tell you this. So first of all, Israel is qualified in the semi-finals. Actually, no big surprise. The reason is because it's a public vote. Israel always does phenomenally well in the public vote, particularly in Western Europe.
Well, they've won it 3 times.
Yeah.
With Hallelujah, Abanabia Bonabear, and the gay Dana.
However, what's interesting is, just to explain to people who don't know, Eurovision has expanded massively since the fall of the Soviet Union. Therefore, there are countries that are in the semi-final. We don't take much notice of it because there are some countries that contribute so many viewers that they're automatically through to the final. They are Britain, Italy, Spain, France and Germany,
and
I think.
Australia.
Not Australia.
Anyway, this is breaking news. Israel's qualified for the grand final on Saturday, hours after protesters tried to disrupt the country's dress rehearsal. Yuval Raphael, 24, was performing New Day Will Rise during a preview show on Thursday afternoon when 6 people with whistles and oversized Palestinian flags obstructed her act. Under the arena rules, all flags are allowed, but there are limits on the size. Swiss broadcaster SRG SSR, which is organising the event, said the audience members were quickly ejected from the Sheikh Jacob Sahal Arena. Israel's participation in Eurovision has been a source of controversy as its military intensifies its bombardment of Gaza and enforces blockades of all food and other...
Do you remember that Suri woman when they came on stage? The fascists in the British media, we need freedom. Do you remember that bloke who got the microphone? We need freedom.
Do you remember when we should have won it a couple of years ago with the bloke looked like Jesus and they gave it to Ukraine as a sort of sympathy vote?
What's interesting? What is interesting if you look at this? So let's assume that a lot of people at home just vote based on what countries they like and what countries they don't like, which was always the complaint about the Baltic bloc. It's always worth seeing which ways these countries voted, which they do publish later. So, you know, Israel always gets a massive public vote, and now get no money from no points from the judges, but they always get a massive public vote. And you see the way that the elites of certain countries are not as popular as you think. You know, they're sort of, Israel will be a pariah. Well, actually, it's not. It always does really well.
It's interesting, actually. So some
Oh, she's lost your microphone. Professional to the last. Tom Harris from the Free Speech Union. Come on, plug yourself back in.
Let's go to Steve in Warsaw while Tom's just fixing his...
I meant to say my favourite one was, do you remember that Conchita Wurst? Right.
I do, yeah. I watched that. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you.
Phoenix.
Let me tell you. Rise like a phoenix.
Yeah.
Do you know, in that year, we voted for the Polish ladies with the big boobs. So our jury gave it to Rise Like a Phoenix. We voted for the women with attractive breasts who were just singing about how attractive Polish women were and how big the boobs were.
And that's what we clinched it.
That's what Eurovision's all about, isn't it?
Okay, Steve's in Walsall.
Steve.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Evening.
I've been monitoring quite a while now about the weather. It's gone nice and warm.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking, we'll wait and see now. They'll be moaning, we've got no water and all this, which it's happened. Now, in the late Victorian era, they had the foresight to harvest water, and they built all the dams up the where is it? Up Wales anyway. They built
Eland Valley, isn't it, or somewhere around there?
Yeah. But I don't think they finished the 4th one because of the outbreak of the Second World War. Anyway, that's the end of there.
Yeah.
They wanted all this water to supply Birmingham with, mainly, because it was the industrial heartland.
That's right. We get the water from the Eland Valley in Birmingham. It's beautiful stuff. They moan about it now, but they did the deal about 100-odd years ago.
Yeah, but my point is, since privatisation, there's been no...
we've got, just say, if you're listening in the morning, Mike Graham is up right now.
Thank you.
If you're listening on Thursday night, I'll tell you what we're going to do, Steve. We're going to leave it there, but we're going to bring you back straight after the break for the phone in. We might as well.
It's too important to not talk to you
Oh, 34449911000 is the number to call. At Virtual Ash is the Twitter.
At Andre JP Walker, what's your FSU?
At Speech Union.
At Speech Union.
Now we're allowed to say that that we want you to join the Free Speech Union. How do they join?
freespeechunion.org, and it starts at just $29.99 for a whole year.
Okay.
So
it's different packages.
I wouldn't recommend that package. I'd recommend the 500 quid one. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Now, are you staying with us?
I don't think so. I think not for the next
No,
one.
no, get out.
Yeah.
Get
Well,
out.
Tom Harris from the Free Speech Union. How many members have you got now?
Just near 30,000.
Come on, let's get it.
Get it
to
over the
30,000. That'd be phenomenal. Okay, 03444991000. I can see we've got 4 slots available if you want to call. And we will be back just in a couple of moments. We've been talking this morning about a new theme park which is going to be built. The Universal Studios apparently going to build it in Bedfordshire. We've been asking many of you to give us some ideas for theme parks. Alison in South Wales says in the new theme park at 5 p.m. every day they could have the PIP parade. All the people driving their brand new Motability cars.
Instead of the water rapids, you can have a road you go down that's full of potholes in a car with bad suspension and flat tyres. I don't know why they're bothering building a theme park in this country. They're going right, no one will be able to afford to go to it anyway. How
about the Rachel Reeves ride, says Terry in Birmingham. You go round and round and vanish up your own deficit. It's the HS2 ride. It travels at high speed for 10 feet, where everyone gets off and into the replacement bus ride. Tickets are £50 if bought 5 months in advance, or £1,000 on the day.
There's a strong rumour going round that Rachel Reeves is going to have a kissing booth at this theme park. So what I do, mate, I shove a 5 in a pot and you can go and fill your boots.
Thank you very much indeed, and very generous of you. One from G, who says fast-track entry to every ride for illegals, plus a free night stay in the Parks Hotel and free food. New theme park bumper cars will have to pay a congestion charge, and the funhouse isn't built yet, despite Angela Rayner's pledge to build houses. What about Ghost Train doesn't move because the driver's on strike? Have a good day. This is brilliant for the theme park. How about grow your own cannabis farm? Yeah, that's a good one. An Ethiopian safari park narrated by Angela Rayner. Says Gary in Durham. How about that? This sums up the Labour Party to me. The one idea they have to improve growth for the economy is to basically have a bloody big fun fair. It's the type of idea primary school children would pitch, given 10 minutes to come up with something. Well, it turns out, Matt, in Royston, that it's not even their idea. And they're now trying to claim it's their idea, even though it was actually the Tories.
They have done brilliantly on breakfast, but you know on Drive you've done brilliantly as well. Downhill slide rides surrounded by ULEZ cameras so that people are fined on exit. Love it. You could have a Birmingham-themed Whack the Rat stall. If you whack the rat, you can have your bin emptied for free. On the Labour theme park.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
OK, this is The Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould. I guess we'll just go to Steve in Walsall to continue what we were talking about. You were talking about water in Birmingham. Sounded fascinating.
Yeah, the main thing is, I mean, since privatisation, there's been no reservoirs built in this country. Before privatisation, there were 100 reservoirs built. And according to statistics, since privatisation, there's been 75 billion pounds paid out in shares. And if anybody can tell me that's right, well, there's something the matter with me, because that is obscene. That.
Yeah, well, it's all pigs at the trough, isn't it now?
That they haven't invested a penny. Well, look at Thames Water.
They get bonuses for failure.
Hang on a second. It's not true to say that Thames Valley haven't invested a penny. They built a new super sewer, which was one of the largest investments in infrastructure in water in about 100 years.
To stop the poo going in the Thames.
Yeah. No, it hasn't stopped it.
It's not been turned on yet.
Their catchment tanks at
No. Look, I'm not. Look, well, hang on a second. I've slagged off Thames Water, but to say they haven't invested a penny, they built the most expensive new sewage system in Europe.
But didn't they get some help with
Why is it not? That's the one in the Midlands. It cost 40 million. Thames Water, their catchment tanks are still the same from when they were built.
I'm aware, but I understand that. But they built a new I'll tell you what we'll do. Why don't I just agree with you? Thames Water hasn't built a new super sewer that's not going online next month. Anyway, Stephen Warsall, thank you very much. Thank you very much. We'll just accept that that's true. Right? They have obviously. Right.
It's still building it. Yeah.
Okay, they're building it. They're trying to roll it out right now.
But he's right to a point. There's a lot of people getting paid for failure.
No, without a doubt. Okay, have we got Lois now? No. Yes. No. Okay.
Yeah. She's
all right. Lois Perry, yeah, I've had enough. Lois Perry.
They're the Broigus.
Lois Perry from the Heartland Institute is on to update us on what is going on with all of the issues around climate change. But I want to say,
thank you, Garson.
I want to say, before I say anything else, Lois, earlier on we had the British Bangladeshi Caterers Association. I know that you went to dinner as well this week.
Yeah, I went with you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, we remember she was on our table. Yeah.
So how worried should we be about Ed Miliband? Because I mean, even the Indian restaurant industry is now moaning because Ed Miliband wants to make it illegal to use gas in kitchens, and that will shut down the tandoori ovens, so you won't be able to get, not just your tandoori meat, but also your naans and things like that.
Well, Ed Miliband only seems to care about things to do with net zero when him or his family or directly financially benefit from it. I mean, we had this conversation actually yesterday, Andre. It's been proven beyond a doubt that his brother benefits directly from money, state money, UK money, into his company, which is based around net zero technologies and net zero things.
Yep.
And so policies that Ed Miliband sets, money that he makes a decision where it goes, is going to his brother's company.
So just to be clear, if Ed Miliband was a local councillor, then this would be an illegal, prejudicial decision. It's legal for him to give his brother money, but it wouldn't be if he was in local council.
No, absolutely. And I think you and I made the point, didn't we, when we were chatting, that when we were kids, and we watched the news, we're both obviously interested in politics. In the 80s, being strange like little kids that we were, people would resign. It would be a resigning matter. And now no one bats an eyelid. It's like, oh yeah, his brother's
since the Tony Blair lot, no one really does it. I mean, what you say, like the Climate Change Committee, which is one of the most important quangos that decides on all this. A lot of the people in that actually have alternative energy companies, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. But the thing that I'd like to talk about today, if that's okay, is that it's been announced with much fanfare. Ed Miliband has announced the Great British Energy Company, which is supposed to be about bringing our bills down and cutting CO2 emissions and everything. But it's an absolute scandal. What they're actually not proposing, what's going through at the moment, is an £8 billion fund that will be invested in technologies that are unproven, and it's called carbon capture. And even if you believe that CO2 is causing problems with the climate, I don't. Others disagree. Scientists think so. A lot of scientists don't. But even if you believe that it's a problem, this would only reduce our emissions over 10 years by 2%. And actually, the carbon capture technology is so rubbish that the pipes leak, and any benefit to the climate would be completely negated anyway. That's £8 billion, and unlike lots of other funds or companies or government projects, it won't be in terms of being monitored. He won't have to go to Parliament and present his case. He's not going to have any monitoring at all. Whereas with every other thing, there will be monitoring.
What they do, Lois, what they do now, of course, is they say this is too important for politics, which means actually what we do is we cut democracy out and we just give it to our left-wing groups.
And the quangos. But also
£8 billion. I mean, £8 billion.
But
Why
also,
can't Sorry, go on.
I read, I think it was this week, they're actually going to cut down, which are natural carbon capture things, trees. They're going to cut down 16 million trees in Scotland just to put these solar panels or wind farms or whatever. And also,
then
like,
they're
they
talking
stop
about dimming the sun.
Yeah,
I mean,
and then they stop making coal here or getting coal out, and they import it all from China as well as the steel now that we have to import because we
it's
can't
all
make.
complete madness. And if they really, really, really cared about CO2 emissions, if they really cared, for £8 billion, you could build 3 nuclear plants. 3.
Yeah.
This is. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. This is nothing to do with the environment, climate change, and everything to do with bringing in a particular ideology.
What are the worst? What? I mean, I you know my view on this. Are green cars the most damaging green technology of them all? Because I have to say, I do not believe that Ed Miliband believes that that an electric car is better for the environment than a petrol car. It's because it simply is not true.
It's not only is it not true. In actual fact, again, even if you believe in the whole CO2 thing, the actual CO2 emissions over the lifespan of the car and making the car is actually higher.
Yes, of course.
And because the cars are heavier, there's this particles that come off the
That's
tyres.
right, the microparticles,
damaging to your
and the
health.
brake dust, very damaging.
They
And
only
not
last
only
for
that,
8 years. They only last for 8 years. You won't buy a second-hand electric car.
and you'll have to reconstruct bridges because of this extra weight. And we see, I think Brent Cross, there was a big fire. You can't put the fires out. And also they're using slave children, in Africa and that, because they don't care about these slaves. They're getting poisoned.
Don't care about slavery when they can have a go at the English.
Well, let me make
they
this.
don't care about slavery
Let
now.
me make this point.
Which is bigger than it has ever been.
I think instinctively, right? If you think about it like this, the internal combustion engine is a power station, right? And so, if instinctively, if you can have a big power station that serves all the cars rather than one power station per car, that seems to me to be more efficient. If battery technology works. Now, here is the most important secret of all of it. Battery technology does not work. Your phone is far more sophisticated than the battery. The reason it's the biggest issue with mobile phones, as people know, is it runs out of batteries. The cars have these massive batteries in them that are made of all sorts of nasty material. We have never solved the problem to storing electricity in large quantities long term, and we may never solve that problem. But you have to understand that batteries don't work. Now, they may work at some point in the future, but that is unproven.
And they make the cars disposable, because after 10 years you can't sell a second-hand electric car because the battery, it's a write-off, because the battery's £10,000 to £20,000. So the car's a write-off.
The car is basically a complete write-off. But this is about getting us out of our cars. It's about restricting us, restricting our movement, restricting trade. It's absolutely nothing to do with the environment whatsoever. Because if it genuinely was, they would be building 3 nuclear plants, and they would not be doing this stupid.
Which Rolls-Royce do, our own British company, make these nuclear plants. Anyway, a call's flooded in for you, Lois.
A call?
Yeah, Tristan in Southend-on-Sea.
Oh, hello, Tristan.
What do you want to say?
Lois, how are you doing?
I'm really well. How are you?
What do you want to say, Tristan?
Okay, firstly, I've got an environmental question, as promised, for Lois.
Oh.
But I also want to say, on the 31st, Lois, I'll be attending the event in Southend you'll be going to.
Oh, I was about to ask you if you were coming to that.
Now, Tristan, just to be clear, when you said that that there is a question about the environment as promised, just to be clear, you promised the researcher you phoned when you phoned in the studio. We didn't agree in advance you were going to call.
Oh, no, I said to Lois about a week ago.
All right, in that case.
You mean this has all been planned?
It's all planned.
This is all planned.
It's all planned.
Right, yes.
No, I'm doing an event at a Reform Party fundraiser event. It's an evening with Graham Towler and me, basically.
With Graham Taylor?
So, Towler, the former PR guy for Nigel Farage.
Yeah, please say hello, Lois, because I'm going by myself. So.
Oh, okay. No, I will definitely say hello. I'll put you next to my nan.
Oh, thank you. So my question is, what are the potential dangers for things to go wrong if Ed Miliband starts blocking out the sun?
Well, his solar
get darker.
his solar panels won't work very well, will they? I mean,
Yeah,
you
that
cover
would
the
be a good
entire
start.
landscape with solar panels and then dimming the sun. There's so many negative things. It's just madness. The thought that you have to dim the sun. We are the coolest that we've been for so long. You know, in terms of
Can I ask Lois? Can I ask an environmental question?
Did you plan it a couple of weeks ago?
How did the ice age defrost? Given that Neanderthal man didn't have any 2-litre Volvos.
Yeah, good question.
Well, absolutely. And you know, we used to have. I'm going to be a little bit. I'm going to. What's the word? Boast a little bit here. We didn't have any hippopotami in the Thames. You know, we had hippopotami in the Thames, swimming in the Thames. You know, so it's been a lot.
Been very dangerous.
It's been a lot colder. It's.
Have you heard about the Colombian hippos?
Well,
no, is that someone?
No, Colombian.
Yeah, is that a boy band?
Right, so Pablo Escobar was so rich that on his estate in Colombia, he bought zoo animals, and he had a collection of hippopotamus, or hippopotami, if you want to say that. Anyway, they're not native to South America, they're native to Africa, and when Pablo Escobar was killed, they all escaped. And so there's now a big population, and there's a major debate in South America as to whether they should kill all the hippopotamus because they're not supposed to be there.
And they're all addicted to cocaine, of course. That's what they fed them on.
They didn't feed them.
Really? So you've got cocaine-addicted hippopotamus?
No, there's not that.
Yeah,
there is not that.
That's bad enough without it.
But just to answer Tristan's question, yeah, I mean, dimming the sun or even attempting to dim the sun is so ludicrous and has negative effects for crops and for our health and vitamin
Also,
D.
I think cloud seeding has been a very, very dangerous technology.
It can cause flash floods. Yeah.
We saw an extraordinary storm, didn't we? I think it was in Dubai where the allegation was that they've been messing around. With the weather, because
just to explain cloud seeding, what they do is they pump chemicals into the cloud or they drop it so it rains. It makes the water drops heavier and whatever, and it rains. The problem is you're now starting to deal with things where you don't know the consequence of doing it.
No way of dealing with it. I tell you what, I am looking forward to though.
Go on.
Asher's taking me on holiday to Acton.
What?
Oh yeah.
I took you on holiday to Runcorn. What are you complaining?
Oh yeah, you took me on holiday to Runcorn.
Oh, it's fantastic.
And Asher's taken me to Acton. The glamour levels in
it's
my
incredible,
life,
isn't it?
Extraordinary.
But have you seen that NASA satellites have show Antarctica has gained ice despite rising global temperatures? There's apparently more ice being on the ice shelf.
Almost everything that you hear is a nonsense.
Tristan heard that as well.
Polar bears as well. There's so many polar bears now that they just sort of go.
Too many. I mean, we don't want loads of polar bears. They're dangerous.
Do you know that polar bears have never met penguins in the wild?
No, because they're on the different poles, aren't they? They're poles apart.
We've got lots of animal facts.
Well, you know that polar bears and grizzlies do actually meet in North America, and they're called growlers.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Have you ever
Tristan,
have you ever seen a growler?
Unless a man has one, no.
No, a man doesn't.
Not anymore. Not since the Supreme Court action.
Oh no! Don't go there. Can I just say, Great British Energy is a massive get-rich-quick hedge fund and nothing more. And if it does save us £300 on our bills, they will have got up a good 500 first.
Yes.
It won't save any money on our bills.
Exactly.
That is a remarkable thing, isn't it? We have so many people coming on saying how cheap green technology is. It's only cheap because it's been massively subsidised, which doesn't make it cheap. However, what is amazing, in every country in the world, more green technology, higher bills. You can see that correlation straight away.
Germany has the most and has the most expensive bills along with us, and the ones who haven't invested in it have the lowest bills.
Yeah, for example, America pay 8 times less for their energy than we do because they frack.
Yeah, okay.
What?
Thank you so much to Tristan in Southend. Thanks so much to Lois Perry, who's the European Director of the Heartland Institute. By the way, I've just got a message from my mate Steve, who says that the local tandoori restaurant, I'm not going to say where it is, he said, everybody thinks it's marvellous, but I rent the building next door, and its 1-star hygiene rating is very well deserved. Anyway, they are not a member of the BBCA. More next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
OK, let's go straight to the calls. Elif is in South Wales. Elif, you're on Talk.
Very good morning to you, gentlemen.
Burida.
Thank you for taking the call, Burida. I've just been listening to your conversation now about climate change and this thing about...
earwigging, were we?
Anyway, where you were speaking about that, you was on about solar panels. Now, it's been reported today about the Americans...
I said this earlier,
finding kill switches in the solar panels.
The Chinese bought ones have a kill switch that China could actually turn off the electrical system of America, and it's over here as well, and they're saying Britain has better check their systems as well.
Well, what I'm trying to say with this, Ash, is like, if the Americans have found this out, Miliband and all the government are trying to get us to invest in all this technology over here. It could jeopardise our...
But Elif, what they think they can do if the Chinese press the kill switch is they can go to the international court and have a court case and the Chinese will respect it, right? They just live in this dream world that they've created about international law, about everyone being good eggs around the world, and it's just garbage.
Well, look at the COVID. They owe us trillions of Chinese for the COVID. They owe the world trillions, and yet they're going to get off scot-free.
Well, the COVID, remember, was a massive transfer of wealth from us to China, because all the companies were sold cheap during the coronavirus lockdown, and whether President Xi of China launched a biological attack on the United Kingdom or whether he benefited from coronavirus coming from China, either way he benefited. And by the way, I'll tell you something else. My first question would have been, is this country under biological attack from the People's Republic of China? That question, which Sir Richard Dearlove wanted to ask, Sir Patrick Vallance, now Lord Vallance, would not allow us to publicly admit that was...
But even if it was like a plan for them, even if it wasn't a plan, then it was negligence, and they're obviously responsible for not doing it correctly. Their biological...
Can you imagine? Can you imagine if Israel had killed 20 million people? With some sort of leak from a lab.
Were you saying about China as well, boys? Quite recently as well, they were on about the Chinese cars over here, and the British government was telling the MOD not to have their employees going into these bases if they were using...
Because they said that when you plug your phone, they said never plug your phones in because the Chinese cars can suck out all the data.
That's it. And again, with breaking down the infrastructure and killing anything. Let's say we broke out with war with the Chinese, with solar panels, kill all the electrics.
Well, do you remember? I mean, our politicians, I don't think they can be trusted. Do you remember when he came over and it was Blair got the police to block the protests for the Chinese premier who was over here?
You have to worry, Asher. And you have to worry, Elif, when you have, going back to Sir Patrick Vallance, somebody who said, let's not tell the public that the coronavirus leaked from the Wuhan virology lab. So he's defending the reputation of Communist China. Now, I don't know why that is, but I would suspect there's no scientific reason for doing it, which then begs the question, and I'm not making this suggestion, my question would have been to Vallance, why are you defending Communist China? What is your relationship with them? Well, now, in the case of Fauci, it was, we are doing a joint research project funded by me at the Wuhan Virology Lab.
Yeah, but also you've got David Lammy and no-brainer Angela Rayner saying, the councils in Westminster are saying never let the Chinese have a super embassy next to the Tower of London. The police are saying never let... MI5 are saying never. But Angela Rayner and David Lammy are saying, no, let's have it. Why are they doing that? What's going on there? Answers on a postcard.
If look, the reality is, I would accuse Lammy of being a Chinese spy if it wasn't obvious he was a moron. Because everything that Lammy has done has hugely benefited Communist China and has been hugely detrimental to the United Kingdom and put Britain at major risk of war with China. But what you have to remember is Lammy's a moron.
Well, let's be honest, gents. Everything with regards to the British public, we always come second to anyone, and the government are running.
It does seem that our politicians, they want to make a quick buck off over 5 or 10 years and then get out of Dodge, and they don't really care about us plebs. That's the impression I think. That's
why I was saying the other day. Do you know what we've got to do? Forget whether Nigel Farage will be a good Prime Minister or a bad Prime Minister. Doesn't matter. What he needs to do is return democracy in this country. He needs to bring back the powers of Parliament. He needs to restore the House of Lords. He needs to get rid of the Supreme Court, bring back a proper Lord Chancellor. If you return democracy to this country, everything flows from that. Burn the quangos.
Basically reform back to 97.
Just get rid of all of the quangos. Get rid of all of them. The lot.
Yeah. We need to go back to basics, boys, and bring the country back.
Well, that was John Major who said go back to basics, and look what happened with him and Edwina Curry.
Hey, I'll tell you what, I was watching on YouTube Anne Widdecombe doing the interview, and she said that, of course, William Hague had said the common sense revolution. He'd said, I want to get rid of all these executive agencies, I want police who police, I want nurses to actually be nurses, I want to bonfire all this and get rid of... And, of course, in 2001, people hadn't realised how much damage Blur had done in 1997 to 2001. We just didn't realise.
It's coming out now, though. We had more immigration since 97 to now than we had in the previous 1,000 years.
What about since the year 2000? 17 million people have moved to the United Kingdom. That is just an astonishing figure.
We get the size of Birmingham City, 1 million people every year now. I mean, that says everything. Our courts are full. We've got 73,000 outstanding Crown Court cases, which means they're serious cases because they've gone beyond the magistrate's court. And we've got 1,000 prison places. So you do the math.
You said about with the court cases now, right? Yeah. It don't matter what you're going in front of the judge for. He's going to be reluctant to put you into prison because there's no room.
Well, they're letting out prisoners, which is outrageous. People, very serious criminals are not even serving unless you're a political prisoner like Lucy Conway.
My favourite was the story that I heard from the Thames Valley Police and Crime Commissioner, Matthew Barber, who said that there is a specialist prison in the Thames Valley that just hosts foreign nationals. And when you're released from prison, quite often they go, right, can you report to the Home Office to be deported? And they all go, yes, and walk off.
Yeah, there's no traceability with anybody today, either that's coming over in these sports. There's just no. Well,
isn't it weird? Like,
there's no accountability. There's nothing.
If you land in an airport here, you get rigorous security because you could be a danger from the country very sensibly. But you have been through an airport on the other side, so there's a bit. But if you leave a country, just get in a boat on the water and you come, they just go, oh, forget all the security. We'll work it out when you're in the hotel and see.
But nobody, actually, you and I have said this.
See what's happening.
You and I have said this on multiple occasions. nobody runs the system historically in this way, which is you get to an airport, they let everybody in, and then 6 months later decide whether you should have been here or not. Nobody does that. It's not a border. That isn't a border. The British border does not exist. Because the principle of we bring you in, we give you a 4-star hotel and then decide whether you should have been here, it's just completely crazy.
Thing is as well, where you said about border force and everything, there is no border force. And all those poor mates that fought in the war for us and covered our beaches and everything, they've been allowed to just walk in here.
Yeah. I'll tell you what I would allow. I would allow you to claim asylum in the United Kingdom if there was a war in Ireland, Norway, France, maybe Germany, Belgium, the Benelux countries, Denmark, these countries that surround us. Now, I'll tell you what I would also allow. If you say, I don't know, left Eritrea and went to Ethiopia and there was a war in Ethiopia, and my geography's not that good, and then if there was a war in Ethiopia as well, you then went to North Africa and there was a war there, and then you went to Egypt, and then you went to Israel and there was a war there, and the point I'm making is I'd allow you to go from country to country, and if the next safest country was 15 countries away, the United Kingdom, that's fine, but I insist you stop at the first safe country. Now, if the first safe country is the United Kingdom, I'm good with that. What did not happen when I went on the border with Ukraine, people did not say, right, I'm avoiding a war now. God, which country's got the best benefit system in Europe for me to move to? They just moved in with their cousins or pitched a tent, right? That is what happened. That's what real refugees do.
The thing is as well, see, gents, at the end of the day, with these refugees coming over, right, we were all inoculated when this COVID-19 broke out. Now, this is something that I'm being spoken about, right? And I feel strong about that. All these are coming over. We don't know if they were inoculated for the COVID-19 or anything like that. So what's being brought over here, that then be monitored as well, that's spreading silently, that could amount to something bigger.
Well, I've got to be honest. I've got to be honest with you. I personally believe, and I hope to be proved wrong, that the British vaccine programme is now finished. Even those things where the vaccinations are worth having, I think you're really going to struggle now. I think the old days of herd immunity are over, and I lay the blame for that with Whitty and Vallance, because Whitty, in his eagerness to lie about the quality and effectiveness of the coronavirus vaccine, has destroyed public confidence in the entire vaccine programme. I said this earlier in the show. If we now had, and we probably will have, by the way, if we now had an injection, which you could take one injection and it would make you 100% immune to cancer, nobody would take it. And that's because...
Well, it was all right, and it started with the MMR, which was proven to be not, a problem, but that's where this vaccine hesitancy started, and this has just blown the door.
Yeah, that's right. So there was one doctor who falsely claimed the MMR caused autism, and that caused a lot of problems.
Still does to this day.
But I believe now the likelihood of us ever getting to 60% vaccination rates. Now, remember, what you have to remember about the vaccination rate is it's not uniform across the country. This is a bit they don't tell you. In Tooting, virtually nobody's inoculated. When you go to Tunbridge Wells, they probably all are. So obviously, Asian communities, black communities won't bother taking the vaccinations. But now that vaccine hesitancy is pretty much universal.
Well, that's because also there was a history in America of using these populations to test vaccines on.
Absolutely. All right, Elif in South Wales, thank you so much. We'll be back in a moment with Yasmin, the Teenage Witch.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is The Late Show with Andre Walker and Asher Gould. OK, well, let's go to Yasmin, the Teenage Witch in Manchester. How are you?
She's not teenage.
She's like... Yeah, go on.
Hiya, darlings.
Hello.
How are you both?
We're all right, man, but we've heard you've got premonitions for both of us.
Oh, premonitions. You want premonitions again?
Yes, please.
Oh, are you sure?
Well, now, what did you want to start? I mean, if you want to talk about whatever.
What I wanted to do was ask Andre, has he ever been to the Vatican? And does he know the last prophecy of Fatima?
She wants to know if you... what was it again?
No. So I've heard of the prophecy of Fatima. I don't know what it is. I couldn't list it in any way, and I've never been to the Vatican.
All right.
She was good at the javelin.
Well, I'm going to tell you something now. Before I came on air, I did see you at the Vatican, Andre.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Well, he was here.
Definitely.
No, I've never been.
You was with a few people. You weren't just on your own, but you were inside the Vatican City.
Yeah.
And I think that is... People can't just go in there, can they?
So you're saying he could be the next Pope, Andre?
No, honestly, he was going to the Vatican area, into the Vatican City.
What are you doing that for?
Well, I mean, I'm a well-known Catholic, aren't I?
Yeah, he is, yeah.
I also see that he's getting a ribbon for something. I know it sounds odd, but that's what I
He does love awards. It wouldn't surprise me.
See that within 3 years. 3 years.
Yeah, I should get working on that papal knighthood, actually.
Like a sash sort of thing.
Yeah, Commendatory.
Yeah.
Say that again, Ash. I missed.
Well, he does like... He's got so many of these sort of...
No, it's not the sash we're after, the Catholics.
What'd you get with
It's Northern Irish joke. Boom.
It's a blue sash, a blue medal or a sash or a trophy, but you do wear it.
Sorry. Somebody keeps messaging in asking for advice on how to get rid of unwanted spirits. They wanted to ask Ken, the Christian, but now you're on, Yasmin. They wanted to ask you.
Just drink them all down in one night.
First of all, unwanted spirits, right, it's quite difficult, but there's 3 things you can do if you choose to. It's your own free will, and this is for entertainment purposes only, I'll say that.
Right.
The first thing you can do is ask Archangel Michael for protection. The second thing is get rid of as much clutter out of your house as you can.
Cutlery?
If you've used an Ouija board or had seances in your house, that could have opened a doorway. That's why you ask Archangel Michael for his divine protection.
So just to be clear, Yasmin, if I open an entrance to the spirit world, they can come in my hole.
It's like I say, never have a welcome mat at your front door because you're welcoming anything in.
Yeah.
The other thing they can do is burn sage and put olive oil by the gate on the floor of the home, olive oil along the gate from left to right. The other thing they can do is literally sprinkle the house with holy water. Yeah. You can get... Every council in the country has got a priest assigned to it for anybody who's having hauntings. And
do the councils pay someone to be an exorcist?
No, the councils, the churches do.
The church does. The church does it. But the council can get into the diocese of the church and ask them to visit for prayers. You can sprinkle holy water around.
Yeah, you said that
and
one.
Clean all your mirrors with holy water. But the key thing is to have that energy of saying to the spirit, leave, and that's it. Leave.
They're not going to listen, though, are they, those dastardly spirits?
Let me explain. They do, because what you're doing is you command the angels for protection before you do it. You command your angel, your guardian angel, and the gatekeeper angels to put up barriers around you and your home and protection around you. Now, the other thing you can do is call on the name of Yeshua or Jesus for protection, because that helps. There's a lot of other banishings you can do, but that's going into deep magic.
Any other vegetables like garlic or anything like that?
Garlic does help. Holy water helps.
Sage sticks. I used to have a girlfriend who was a witch. She had these sage sticks she used to burn.
Yeah,
I've smelt the smell of sage sticks burning.
Sage sticks are all right, but what that draws in is native First Nations Indians energy.
Yeah, oh yeah, she had one of those dream catchers as well. You know, those dream catcher things.
Yeah, but those dream catchers that people buy do not work because they've got metal in them. The original dream catchers were made of willow.
I think she had the willow one.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was expert level, that one.
Yeah,
she used to play the bongos and all that, that type.
And the other thing,
irregular washer.
Well, the other thing that's really good is the church chanting, Gregorian choirs. That music can clear the air.
Go they take,
What about church bells? The church bells.
Yeah, church bells are very good because what they do is set a vibration up within the area that cleanses and banishes negativity. Plus the gargoyles are very protective and very ancient, amazing. The other thing I'd like to ask you, Andre, have you ever heard of Simeon Toko?
No.
Look it up.
Why?
Well,
wasn't she the one that split up the Beatles?
No, Simeon Toko is a man who was born in our age, in the early 20s, I think.
Yeah, that's her.
And he lived for quite a long while, and he was connected to the Vatican and the Rothschilds, and he literally stopped a plane in midair. And they were trying to kill him. You'll have to look it up. Simeon Toko. He's supposed to be the next Yeshua on earth.
Going Simeon Toko, if you stay too long.
Doesn't Simeon mean monkey, isn't it? Isn't a Simeon a monkey?
My favourite is...
Simon. It's like Simon, but it's an E.
Well, they do call them the primates, don't they?
My favourite of them all, I don't know if you can find it, the Hidden King, Greg Hallett, right? He believes that he's going to be the next king of the United Kingdom. He's absolutely superb. And they've got this documentary about him where he's saying that he just makes up all this stuff, right? And actually, I checked out his claim to the throne, which actually isn't real because he just made it up. But even if it was true, he wouldn't have the right to be the king anyway. But he claimed that Queen Elizabeth II had left Buckingham Palace and was going to leave the gates open for him to come in and be crowned the king. And there was two Jesuses. It's one of the best documentaries I've ever seen. It's absolute garbage. It's superb.
What's it called again?
It's called The Hidden King. Let's see if I can find it.
Anything else you want to tell us, Yasmin?
Yeah, what do you want to know?
Well, no. Have you got anything for me? Anything coming through?
Let me have a look.
Put the music, cue the music. Let's get it right.
I feel as though you're helping somebody get a house. You're going to be helping somebody get a house.
Now, it's Andre, isn't it?
No, it's
You're
not.
mixing up our things.
You're going to be helping somebody get a house. It's going to be really good. I also see that when I was looking at you, as though you need to, what's the word?
Work out a bit.
No.
Get in shape.
Go to a synagogue. I don't know why. I just got told that. Or you're going to have a meeting at a synagogue or people around you at a synagogue that's going to be very, how can I put it, spiritual for you.
I'll get down to synagogue,
I feel on the 3rd of June as though there's something, I've got to just say it, magical going to happen.
Well, it's my birthday.
No, it isn't.
And, yeah. It's my birthday then, so hopefully.
Are you being honest?
Yeah.
So you're a number 9 energy?
Well, what? Yeah.
He's a number 2.
Is that what it is, number 9?
Yeah.
Number 9.
6.
What does that mean?
3 is community.
Yeah.
Anybody who's got 3 on the first letter of the first number of the birthday is always to do with complete communication, and that's the job you're in. And also, it means 3 is like the pyramid energy. so it's like you're building up and up and up and higher. And it's like, how can I put it? You're very intuitive. You do have an all-seeing eye. People think they have, but you've actually got it. You can actually...
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a bit like deja vu. You get...
Oh, I'll tell you something. Ash would bend over backwards to examine his third eye. He absolutely would.
I try every night, yeah. No, but you're right. I am good at that. I can
You're
read
very
things.
intuitive, and I would like you to write your dreams down. And I also feel with you, you've got an ancestor who's always stood behind you, protecting your back.
Oh, yeah.
That's very
Hang on a second. I'm going to stop this because... No, stop. Yasmin, stop for a second. Because we've had a reply from this person. I'm going to read it in full. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to read it in full after we come back from the break. Yasmin, wait around because this problem with the spirit infestation...
But I want the rest of my message. So she was getting something there.
Oh, do
back in a couple of minutes with that.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Right, what I did before, and I need to apologise to Asher Gould because it was deeply unprofessional. I genuinely wasn't listening to your reading.
Oh yeah, because she had a bit. What was it? You were talking about an ancestor watching over me. Tell us a bit more about that, because all the things come true. Jasmine.
Oh, what's happened to her? We wanted her.
Jasmine gone. Oh. Maybe it's the... We'll get about... Let's go. Ken in London.
No, wait a second, because we want to read out the message that Yasmin's going to have to respond to.
All right. Yeah.
Please thank Yasmin for me. We didn't open it. The problem is the church wouldn't help. Sage and prayers made it worse. Now they're going to explain in detail, Yasmin. Here we go. The problem is that ley lines run under the house, which activate portals and let in demons.
Yeah.
And they trap dead spirits and use them for their bidding. And they attack us and making us sick and depressed. How do you close the portals and stop the alien attacks? We'll try to find some ideas. And I've used the Angel Michael and a purple cloak already.
How'd you close those portals, Jasmine?
First of all, I didn't hear the beginning of what you said.
We'll read it again, so let's all think about this together. We didn't open a portal, so she didn't use the Ouija board, right? The problem is the church wouldn't help us. She said they tried sage and prayers, and it made it worse. But what she has now discovered is that there are ley lines running under her house which activate the portals. That lets the demons in, and then they trap dead spirits and use them for their bidding, and they attack us and make us feel sick, depressed and angry. We need to know how to close the portals and stop the alien attacks.
It's spiritual substance.
Yeah, absolutely. And she'll try some ideas, but she has used the angel Michael and also worn a purple cloak.
Right, first of all, there's a few things there that it's more than what she thinks. The ley lines run all over England and the world. Wiltshire is particularly
susceptible,
open to it because it's about energies conversing.
Right.
I have heard if there's a person who puts, a dowser, he can close them ley lines and change the trajectory by putting copper rods around the perimeter of the house. That's the first thing.
Well, that's going to cost a lot of the price of copper at the moment.
The second thing, if she's talking about aliens, that's a different ball game altogether.
Well, alien can mean creatures that are not supposed to be in a particular place, rather than stuff from the planet Zog.
Well, I believe we've got different levels of living entities all around us.
Right.
So I personally believe that's important to understand. We have different levels of energy. The thing is, she did mention aliens, so I'll say about aliens. I've seen aliens, I've been abducted, I've seen a spaceship, and I've even got proof.
Right.
So, and I've had a scientist who was a scientist from Britain, one of the top scientists in London, who went to China and things like that, and he didn't believe in UFOs. And I said, look up in the sky, and I pointed to an area and things started to move. And he said, no. He said, that's satellites. I said, a satellite is as big as a bus, and it's sent 8 miles away. You wouldn't see it in that energy.
Right.
And they all started moving the stars. It was brilliant that night. Anyway, so what I'm saying is aliens are totally different than spirit.
Right.
Now, Archangel Michael is brilliant, and putting a purple cloak around you is brilliant, but the biggest thing to do is to imagine your house in a light bubble, a bright light. Imagine every room is lit up with light, holy light, magical light, whatever you believe in.
But hang on a second. You are literally recommending that you invoke you invoke a Christian angel, right? And also demand that God come and save you from the evil spirits. It's quite a religious message.
Let me explain. Angels have no religion. They were created with God as well as the jinn. So there is no religion with the angels. Archangel Michael, if you know the Arabic, it's a different name. What I'm saying is angels are not to do with religion.
Right.
They are part of the foundation of the whole of the universe.
Right. Okay, Yasmin, I am going to leave it there simply because we've had a caller waiting for a while who I imagine will want to interact with much of that. Ken is in London. Ken, you're on Talk TV.
We're in trouble now.
Good morning, everybody.
Now we're
Good
in trouble.
morning. Listen, I phoned up last week about this. With respect to Yasmin is a precious soul to God, you never should allow a witch to predict anything over your life.
Right.
Because when you
note I didn't do that.
Good. Well, that's a wise thing. You have to be very
But I
careful.
did. What does it mean? Better find out.
You have to be careful. There's power. Some of them are frauds, but some of them have got demonic power. But
oh no, what have I done?
You have to remember that in the Bible, much of Jesus' ministry was involved in casting out of demons. And he gave Christians, those who were born again by the Spirit of God, power to do the same, to cast out demons in the name of Jesus.
So do you believe, Ken, do you believe, so first of all, you believe in good and evil, that's obvious, that Christian would believe in that. Do you believe that say through prayer, you can remove evil from your life?
This is what the Bible says, Andre. And they overcame him, that's the devil, by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. The only way to overcome the devil in our life is to testify to demons of the power and the blood of Jesus when he died on the cross at Calvary. It's through the power of the blood that demons flee, because the blood of Jesus Christ is all power over every demon. We have no power over demons, but when we testify of the name of Jesus and the blood of Jesus, you demons, in the name of Jesus, by the blood of Jesus, I command you to leave that person now. When a person does that by the Spirit of God and the power of the Spirit, the demons have to leave. And I've been involved in that with Indian ministry in Canada. There is power in the holy name of Jesus, but only in casting out through his...
Just do me a favour, Yasmin, you're listening to that. What's your response?
Well, Jesus did cast out demons. There's no two ways about that. He cast out demons into a group of pigs that ran off a cliff. When Jesus was casting out demons, he always sent them back to where they came from, their energy. He didn't kill them. The other
He sent them running over a cliff. That couldn't have done much good.
No, they fell in the water. They went back to the energy of where the source was, where they came from. Yeah. The other thing about it is I don't speak on Ken, but he's always bringing my name up, and I don't find that.
Yeah, you're judging Yasmin, Ken. You're not allowed to judge.
The other thing is, which is more important, I respect Ken, I respect his views, but I don't judge him. I was brought up in different faiths growing up, and I've had different happenings that are very spiritual to me. I don't judge Ken. He's got to stop saying witches are evil, because we're people just like him. And remember, all of the Easter, Yule, all of the festivals of the Christian calendar were pagan. And pagan means pagonis, which was the ancient Greek pagonis, which was that the pagans lived outside of the city of Rome and worshipped their own gods, and the heathens lived on the hillsides of Rome and worshipped their own gods. They weren't tortured, they were respected. And as far as I'm concerned, this religion has only been going 2,000 and odd years. Before that, people loved the earth, worshipped the earth, because that's what came alive.
Right. I'm gonna leave it there simply because we've run out of time. Let's get Ken to respond to all of that, because there was a lot there. Ken.
I would just like to, in love and concern for everybody, including Yasmin. I love you, Yasmin.
He loves you, Yasmin.
But I'm against witches and witchcraft. One of the fastest growing religions in the world today is witchcraft, Satanism, Spiritism.
That's because of the Harry Potter, isn't it?
From the pits of hell. It all comes from the pits of hell, and it's cloaked in some fancy biblical language, but I can assure you it is all driven by Satan. Only the power of the blood of Jesus Christ, and by stating his name, can we stand against demons. That's the only power against the devil, is the blood of Jesus and the name of Jesus. Anything else is mumbo-jumbo from the devil. So that's in the Bible. We have to be careful. And I want to encourage anybody, don't allow a witch to ever predict anything over your life or your family. Be careful. And I say that in love to Yasmin.
He says it in love, Jasmine.
Jesus died for you, Yasmin. Jesus died for you, Yasmin. You need to get out of that witchcraft. Ask God to help you.
Yasmin, what's your response to that?
Yasmin. Jesus loves you. He wants to deliver you. He wants to.
Hang on. We've got another update. Right, this is really interesting. Right, so to Ken and Yasmin, who'll both get 30 seconds each because we've got a minute left. Right, apparently this lady has said that when the name of Jesus was invoked, the spirits went very, very, very angry indeed. Ken, your response?
The spirits always flee from the name of Jesus. In the name of Jesus, we have the
victory. This is no time for song, Ken. We've only got a minute.
In the name of Jesus, the power is...
Okay, Ken, I'm going to stop you there, and that's you finished, Ken. Yasmin, 30 seconds. Jesus made the spirits very angry.
Yeah, the thing is...
Well, he would do, wouldn't he?
At the end of the day, Ken has his beliefs, I've got